Hey guys, anime fanfics here. This is chapters 16 to 21 of Obito's redemption story by Yaboy Assassin on Wattpad. Links to all stories are in the description below, and make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Chapter 16. Obito looked at his reflection in the mirror after getting up and taking a shower. It had been a year since he'd stolen Madara's chakra, but he still didn't have the Rinnegan. He also had mastery over his Mangekyo, but his Susanoo was the most complete he could make it for now. It had full armor and some new techniques, but that was it for its development. Well, at least for now. 5. Shisui unlocked his Sharingan at one of his first missions in the war. The war was still going on, although thanks to our mission to the Canopy Bridge steadily turned the war in Konoha's favor. Obito was given a field promotion 6 months earlier that made him a jounin as well. And he started to train in seals about 4 months ago with Minato and Kushina when they weren't busy. So all in all, Obito was happy and content, but still kept an eye on Danzo and Mountain's graveyard when he had the chance. He couldn't, however, keep hold of where Orochimaru was, but it wasn't too big of a loss. Obito smelled the fresh spring air as he walked out of his apartment, closing and locking his door behind him. The village knew of Obito's prowess and some of his abilities. Only the Uchiha clan and Danzo knew of his Mangekyo. Although he had no proof that Danzo knew, but he'd trust that he'd find out some way. Minato wasn't the Hokage yet, but Obito knew it was a little after the war, so he wasn't worried. Obito walked down the street as he relaxed. He didn't worry about anything as the war was about to end, and it made him relieved as it meant less death. Obito turned around as he felt his teammate's chakra heading to his house. He'd been extra late today and he was walking slowly to try and figure out an excuse. As the two passed, Kakashi happened to turn to look up the street, causing him to see the Uchiha. "Hey, where the hell was you? You're late again and it's getting old," Kakashi yelled. Kakashi and Obito were best friends, even though Kakashi would never say it. But Kakashi was the first one that congratulated Obito for becoming jounin, so Obito knew how he felt. "Well, I'm sorry," Obito said as he put his hands over his head and crossed them. "I'm sure it isn't that big of a deal. I'm only a couple of minutes late." Kakashi's eye twitched as he heard those words come out of his teammate's mouth. "Try a couple of hours. You're always late and it's annoying everyone." I smiled and turned to Rin, who was beside Kakashi. "Rin isn't annoyed, right?" She looked anywhere but Obito as she fidgeted. Well, you..." She stuttered before stopping and pointed at Obito. "Don't put me in your guys' fight." While Obito just smiled. "Well, it seems to me that you're all late." A voice on the side of Team 7. Minato smiled as he came up to his team. "He's the only one that's late," Kakashi said, pointing at Obito. "Well, no one was at the training grounds when I got there." "That makes you all late," Minato pointed out. Kakashi scoffed but didn't say anything while Obito and Rin laughed. "Okay, you guys, the Hokage is giving you guys a mission," Minato said, getting his students' full attention. "You won't come with us, sensei?" Rin asked curiously, looking at their sensei. Even though Obito and Kakashi were jounin after the Canopy Bridge, they never did a mission without Minato. No, the Hokage wanted to test Obito and Kakashi leadership skills by making them co-leaders of this mission, Minato explained. "Why would we need 2 leaders if it's just gonna be us 3? Kakashi asked. "Well, this is a co-op mission with Team Choza," Minato said as Kakashi went wide-eyed at the news. "You're telling me I have to go on a mission with a guy? There has to be another team. Any other team would be fine," he complained. It wasn't that he hated the guy, it was more so that guy was annoying with his challenges he insisted on every time he saw Kakashi. He already had to deal with one idiot and now he'd had to deal with 2 for several days. 3. Minato chuckled. "No, there's no other team, so you have to work with the guy. Meet up with them and go to the Hokage's office," he explained before ruffling Kakashi's hair. "And be nice. See ya," he told us before disappearing in a yellow flash. Where are we supposed to meet them?" "He didn't tell us," Rin pointed out after a bit of silence. I don't know, but it's not like I want to meet them, Kakashi said back. You should stop complaining, Kakashi. It isn't all that bad, and if you don't like it so much then finish the mission as fast as possible. Obito said with his arms behind his head. I know that already, idiot. You just make sure you don't screw up the mission. Even though you're a jounin, you're still an idiot. Kakashi said. Obito scoffed. Says the guy complaining about being on a mission with a comrade. Okay, that's enough. We don't want you two at each other's throats before the mission starts, she said as she stepped between Obito and Kakashi. Let's just go to the Hokage's office and wait for our comrades to show up. Fine. They said simultaneously as they all walked to the Hokage's office. Hokage's office. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third leader of the village, sat in his chair doing paperwork like most days. It kept him busy all the time, and more often than not he'd have to stay in the office overtime just to complete paperwork. Hiruzen massaged his temples as he had a splitting headache that he thought would never cease. He couldn't wait to pick his successor so he could get rid of this paperwork. A knock at the door made him remember the team he requested as he put down his pen. Enter, he said. Obito, Kakashi, Rin, Gai, Ganma, and Ebisu walked in and gave formal greetings to the Hokage. Well, except for Gai, but it wasn't disrespectful but just more youthful. 2. I called you guys here for a very important mission that could end the war with Iwagakure, he explained, gaining their full attention. IWA has been getting the last of their supplies through the hidden waterfall village. Your assignment is to destroy their supplies, as I've already sent shinobi to strike a peace deal with IWA. 3. So you plan to corner them so that they have to agree to the peace deal? Kakashi asked. Yes, that was the plan we went with. Do you all accept this mission? He asked and then looked to gauge their expressions. Yes, Hokage-sama. All the young teens answered simultaneously. The Hokage nodded as he looked at Kakashi and Obito. You two are the only jounin, and so I'll make you co-leaders, he said as Obito and Kakashi nodded. Then all I can say is good luck, and you are to leave today. You are dismissed, he commanded before picking up his pen and getting back to his paperwork while the teens left. When did you become a jounin, Obito? Ganma asked curiously as they walked out of the entrance. About 6 months ago. Why? Obito asked as he turned to regard Ganma. I was just asking, he responded with a shrug. Alright, everyone goes pack your stuff and meet up in an hour, Kakashi said as he got in front of the group and looked at Obito, who wasn't even paying attention. Obito, pay attention, this is your first jounin mission, do you want to screw it up? Kakashi yelled. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm more than prepared to handle any situation, Obito stated with confidence as he folded his arms behind his head. Yes, I see it in you, Obito. Kakashi, can't you see his flames of youth burning as bright as the sun? Guy exclaimed loudly that made them receive some looks from the people around them. 1. Kakashi just stared at Guy. No. All I see is an overconfident idiot. 3. Well, this overconfident idiot is the leader of this mission. And when I lead us to complete this mission, I'll be known around the world, Obito stated. 2. Yeah, as the biggest idiot known to man, Kakashi stated. Rin once again got in between them. Alright, that's enough to go and pack your stuff. Fine, Obito and Kakashi said simultaneously as they stared at each other. Obito left for the Uchiha compound as he had to cancel the training session he had with Itachi and Shisui. He arrived at the door and knocked on it. Itachi opened the door and looked up to his teacher. Good morning, Obito-san, Itachi said respectively as always. What are you doing here? I thought training didn't start until later today, Itachi said as he moved inside to let me in. It was, but I have an important mission that'll keep me for a couple of days. I'll have to cancel, but I still want you to polish your skills we've been learning this past month. Understand? Obito said as he turned to Itachi. Yes, sir. Nodding at the kid internally, Obito started to the kitchen in search of some food. He didn't eat breakfast and it was getting to him. He was going through the pantry but stopped as he felt danger. Obito, what are you doing in my pantry? A sweet voice asked from behind Obito, but you could sense the malice. 6. Ugh, I was looking for something to give Itachi since he was hungry. That's strange, he's hungry when he just ate? Makoto cracked her knuckles. Well, you know how it is. Obito paled a bit. This was gonna hurt. He pulled out some dango that was stored in a container. Want some? One ass whooping later. Well okay Obito. Good luck on your mission. Makoto nodded before leaving the kitchen. Did it hurt? Itachi asked after his mother left. Obito playfully glared at Itachi before getting up slowly with a groan. It didn't feel like sunshine and rainbows. Obito rubbed the back of his head with a grimace. Okay, I'll be going. Make sure you tell Shisui that there's no training today. As he ran out the front door. After packing up and eating some instant ramen, he set out to the village gates. Kakashi stood impatiently as he constantly checked his non-existent watch. He should have done what his sensei did and told Obito to come an hour earlier. Because this shit kept happening, it would mean war. Kakashi glared intensely as Obito appeared in a puff of smoke. Why the fuck are you late? 2. Obito grinned, rubbing the back of his head. I forgot how to use jutsu and had to learn all over again. Kakashi started to yell insults while Guy muttered about something on youthfulness, and Ganma and Ebisu ignored the situation altogether, wondering how in the hell he became a Jonin. Okay guys, can we just get on with the mission? Please? Rin sighed. You guys fight everywhere. Just give it a break. I'll have you know Kakashi fights me. Obito pointed to himself as he turned to Rin. He always yells at me. I feel victimized. Obito, if you keep talking you won't feel anything. 1. Is that a threat? As Obito turned to Kakashi. Define the threat. Okay, that's enough, Ganma said lazily. We should just get this over with. We don't have forever. You heard what the Hokage said. We complete this mission, we're one step closer to the war ending. Fine. Kakashi quickly glanced at Obito before starting of the village. Thank God. Rin sighed. They did this all the time, but at least they didn't straight up didn't like each other. They were closer as a team. 2 days later. Hey, guys, there's a hot spring a little up ahead. You guys wanna stop there for a break? Obito turned to his comrades that were behind him. No, I think we should take a break when we get closer to the waterfall village. We are still in the land of fire. Kakashi said, looking up from his map. Come on, don't be such a stick in the mud. It's just a short break and we'll be right back to walk. Obito started to stretch. Plus my muscles are tight and a nice warm hot tub should do the trick. My answer is no. We're on an important mission. Taking unnecessary detours won't help anybody. Kakashi said as he rolled up the map and put it into his pouch. Kakashi, my eternal rival, Guy pulled his arm around and annoyed Kakashi's neck. I think this idea is youthful. We must forge on to the hot spring. I can sense its youthfulness from here. We must bath in it. 5. You see, Obito pointed at Guy. Guy gets it. I don't care. Kakashi removed Guy's arm from around his neck. The mission comes first. Actually, Ganma started gaining their attention. A hot spring wouldn't be a bad idea, and on top of that my muscles are kinda stiff. He turned to his other teammate. What about you, Ebisu? He just nodded. Same. Well, that settles it. Let's go to the hot springs. Obito yelled as he started walking. I never agreed to this. Kakashi ran in front of Rin and held her shoulders, causing her to blush from the contact and closeness. Rin, do you think this is a good idea? Hey, don't bring Rin into this. Obito yelled before smirking. Plus it won't matter as the majority rules. Fine, let's go to this thing already so we can leave, Kakashi said as he gave in. But if something happens it's on you. Hot springs. Og hi. Obito relaxed in the hot water. This hits the spot. He had been doing a couple of missions and training with his students while also starting his search for Akatsuki members. He couldn't find a secret way into the hidden rain village yet as he only wanted to observe, but he'd have to find a way eventually. I feel like I'm bathing in a pool of youthfulness. Guy jumped in and floated on the surface of the water. It sure feels good considering the walking for miles and sleeping on the hard ground. Ganma leaned back on the edge of the tub relaxing. Kakashi came in with a towel covering his face and waist. Stop complaining, it's part of the job description. Kakashi sat on the stool and started washing his body. See, it isn't all that bad, is it? Obito grinned when Kakashi glared at him. Near the waterfall village one day later. Okay, now since we're close we should make a plan. Kakashi turned to the team. Any ideas? I think splitting up and searching for where they are getting their supplies from would be the smartest to do, Ebisu answered using his hand to push up his glasses. After receiving all-around agreements with the plan, they choose partners and split into 3 pairs. The pairs were Kakashi and Rin, Guy and Ganma, and Obito and Ebisu. I think we should knock someone out and steal their clothes to fit in. Obito turned to Ebisu as he landed on a tall branch. The village was built around a large tree with a large forest surrounding it. Obito was gonna on the lookout for food, the Jinchuriki of this place. This was the only place that had a Jinchuriki and wasn't one of the 5 great nations. 2. Yes, that is a good plan, Ebisu noted how he switched to serious mode. He watched in silence as Obito activated his Sharingan and surveyed the area. We could take out a lone guard that is patrolling not too far from here. Obito deactivates his Sharingan before looking at Ebisu. Ebisu was about to agree with the plan until he thought of it more. Wait, how would you fit into a guard's suit? Ebisu pointed at Obito. You're still a kid, there's no way you'll fit without it being too big or too suspicious. 1. And that's where you come in, Obito exclaimed with a smile before he grabbed his shoulders. Ebisu didn't like where this was going. With Kakashi and Rin. Kakashi walked with Rin as they snuck into an unguarded training field in the village. He hoped Obito, or even worse Guy, didn't screw up this mission. Obito was an idiot and Guy was, well, Guy. How would we go to the village? Rin asked curiously as she glanced at Kakashi. We'd probably have to disguise ourselves to get in, Kakashi answered before internally ruling it out. That'd be the first thing any infiltration ninja would do, and so they'd probably have checkpoints or something to make sure you are the person you claim to be. He hoped none of the others had chosen this route. Let's rule that out. I'll have some of my dogs infiltrate the village to check out their security. Kakashi started doing seals before slamming his hand on the ground. Summoning Jutsu. In a puff of smoke, his miniature pug dog summon appeared before him. Yo Kakashi, what do you need? The pug asked when the smoke cleared. Pakin, could you infiltrate the village a little ahead of us and give us information on their security? Kakashi answered in a whisper just in case of any eavesdroppers. Sure, I'll be back in a couple of hours. Be careful, Pakin. You don't need to tell me that I'm going into enemy territory. Pakin ran in the direction of the village. Smartass, Kakashi muttered before running into the forest with a laughing Rin. With Guy and Ganma. How youthful do you think that rock is? Guy asked as he turned to Ganma. 2. Are you seriously asking me that? Ganma's sweat dropped. Guy was an idiot. A nice, annoying, and strong idiot, and even though he didn't care for anyone's opinion on him, he didn't want his team to be the only one that didn't come up with anything. How about we focus on the mission? Ganma walked past Guy. That needed to find something important to the mission. Something. Do you want to know what else is youthful? Guy jumped in front of Ganma, causing him to sigh. 'Cause I know a dash. No. But why? He whined and folded his arms like a child. I demand youthfulness. And you'll have plenty when we get back to the village. He turned around to survey the area they were in. Now come on, let's at least have a plan to go into the village. He turned back only to find air. His eyes twitched as he should have chosen a different partner. Back with Obito and Ebisu. This is the most idiotic and stupidest plan in history. Ebisu said, as this plan couldn't be more stupid. He doubted a baby monkey would fall for this. Shut up. Feet don't talk. Obito looked around to make sure the coast was clear. Okay, start walking toward. Why am I the feet? Because I'm the head, duh. Obito grinned at the low growl he received. He wanted to make bonds with all of the people he could, so he didn't mind playing the idiot. Ebisu went forward, and if an outsider was looking, then it would look suspicious. Obito couldn't fit the sleeves, and the clothes that they had on didn't look long enough as they were taller than the man. Just trust me. I ain't a jounin' for nothing. He assured. It didn't give Ebisu any peace, but if worst comes to worst, he'd hightail it out of here. With or without Obito. 5. Back with Kakashi and Rin. We don't know how long he'll take, so Kakashi turned to Rin. We might want to know where the animals are just in case we'll be here for a while. He finished as Rin nodded to the plan. Kakashi was about to move when he sensed multiple chakras coming in their direction. He jumped as he grabbed Rin's hand and pulled her towards him as he looked at the passing platoon from behind the tree. Stone Ninja. He muttered as he caught a glimpse of their headband. Why the hell are they here? He asked himself quietly. They needed to know where the supplies were, so they had to risk it and follow them. Rin, let's go dash. He stopped as he looked slightly down at Rin's flustered face. And that's when he noticed the closeness. He pushed away so fast he fell off the tree and onto the hard floor. Rin looked down at Kakashi from the tree. You okay, Kakashi? Just fine. He answered as he got up slowly and dusted himself off. He opted to wear lighter clothing even though his clothes weren't particularly heavy. They were a bit darker. It was black except for the straps and bandages. We need to follow them to come on. He started jumping from tree to tree, whilst Rin hastily followed. Back with Guy and Ganma. Guy. Where the hell did you go? Ganma yelled as he jumped from tree to tree. Why did the guy have to be his teammate? It could have been anyone else. Finally, he muttered as he saw his teammates back towards him. Hey, where did you go? He pauses as he looked at a small pig over the guy's shoulder. Wait, you left to talk to a dog? Guy? The pug jumped at Ganma before biting his hand, causing him to scream. What was that for you, mutt? He glared at the Ninken. Because I'm no ordinary dog, Pakin answered as Guy turned around to look at Ganma. I think I'm going crazy. Ganma turned to Guy. Is it just me or did that dog just talk? I'm Kakashi's summon, you moron. Pakin yelled annoyingly. Can't you see the leaf headband on my head? 1. To be honest, I wasn't paying attention, Ganma answered as he scratched the back of his head. I could tell. Anyway, Pakin cleared his throat. Kakashi has given me orders to meet up with you and the other two so we could meet up with him and the girl. So come on. All right. They agreed as they followed Pakin. Back with Obito and Ebisu. Go a little faster, would you? Obito looked down at where Ebisu was. We don't have all day. Well, I'm sorry if you're heavy as hell and it's hot as shit down here. If you want to go faster, then you be the feet. Ebisu yelled. We've been over this, I can't be the feet when I'm the head. He looked ahead as they were close to the village. Now come on. They walked to where the guards were slacking off. They had waited until someone said that their shift was over and was to head back into the village. It had been a close call since they were just getting the guard's clothes on. "Nagabi, what's up?" A guard greeted as the disguised Obito and Ebisu reached the gate. "Hey, what's up?" Obito said nervously. He didn't know how the guy acted and he'd hoped nothing was too off. "Finally done with these shifts. Wanna go get some lunch?" The guard asked them as he walked forward. "Come on, what am I even saying? We both know you're a monster eater." He grabbed Obito's arm. "Come on, there's this new place that just opened." He stopped and looked at Obito's arm questionably. "Whoa, did your arm get smaller?" Obito pulled his hand from the guy. "Ah, no, it's fine, you must be imagining things." 2. Maybe let's go to the place." He responded with a shrug. He started to walk to the restaurant with a disguised Obito at his side. "That must be Obito and Ebisu right there," Danma pointed out as they went into the village. "Yeah, it's them, they can't change their scent," Pakken said. Danma turned to Pakken. "Well, what's the plan?" "We have to get Obito and Ebisu away without being discovered." "There's no way I can see it happening," he responded, looking back at Ganma. Ganma muttered a damn before turning to look where Obito first interacted with the man. "Then we need to go back and meet up with Kakashi. A better plan could come if it's the 4 mines." "Don't you mean 5? The pug questioned as he looked at Ganma. Ganma turned to where Guy was as the latter had been doing handstand push-ups with one finger. He was currently on 233. "No, I mean 4. 15 minutes later. "Kakashi and that Rin girl have moved," he said as he smelled their scent get farther away. "Where are they going?" Danma asked from behind the pug with furrowed eyebrows. "I don't know, but it smells like they're following someone," he responded. "Well, that means he's found something worthwhile, let's catch up." Danma and Pakken started to speed up. "Yes, let's go with the power of youth," Guy yelled as he sped up and matched their speed. "With Kakashi and Rin." "They're heading to the village," Kakashi muttered, but Rin heard it. "Why would they go to the village? I thought they would deliver the supplies to the stone in a convoy or something." Rin looked over at Kakashi. "What do you think of it, Kakashi?" Kakashi silently thought on it for a moment. "It's either they come and get supplies and bring it to their village themselves, or they help make sure the supplies are delivered to their village." Rin nodded in thought. "I think it's the second opinion." Kakashi turned to her. "Why's that?" he questioned. "Well, they wouldn't get enough supplies for their big village from only a platoon of ninja." Kakashi thought about it before nodding. Kakashi heard someone coming on the side of him, and as he turned quickly to catch who it was, he came head to head with Guy as they fell from the trees they were on. Kakashi got up with a groan as he glared at Guy, who was in a sitting position. "Guy, what the hell are you doing?" He rubbed his head as he got up. "Oh, Kakashi, my internal rival, how are you?" Guy asked loudly. Kakashi jumped on him and covered his mouth. "Shoo, you're way too loud, idiot." "Kakashi, who were you following?" Danma asked as he jumped down to the ground as the others followed suit. "Some stone ninja I saw." "Why are you guys here?" Kakashi asked. "I'll explain," Danma said before he started explaining the events that happened to Kakashi. "Back with Obito and Ebisu. Finally, we got away from him," Obito said as he wiped his forehead with the back of his hand. "I told you this wasn't a good idea. You need dash Ebisu started before he was shushed by Obito. Dude, someone's coming." Obito stayed silent as a platoon of stone ninja went past him. "Who was that?" Ebisu asked. "Some stone ninja, what are they doing here though?" Obito replied as he started to look down the street to where they were going. "Ebisu, go forward, let's follow these assholes." Back with the rest of the team, they took out any ninja that was alone so that they could follow the stone ninja in the village. The stone ninja walked to the edge of the village and went into a fancy-looking place, probably where the village leader stays. When they left and went back to the village gate, people were waiting on them with supplies inside the wagon. I knew it. They are just making sure that the supplies reached their village, Kakashi said. Then what's the plan? Rin asked as she turned to Kakashi in the tree. He thought for a moment. You and I will follow the convoy. He stopped to look at Gunma. You and Guy go and get Obito. You don't need to do that, we're right here, Obito said with a grin. While Ebisu just pushed up his glasses. Why did you make such a cool entrance for no reason? Rin asked. Does there have to be a reason to be awesome? Obito responded. 3. Come on, they have started moving. He turned to regard his summon. Pakin, could you stay so that they won't get away? 4. Yeah, sure. They followed as the convoy went through the massive forest. They were gonna wait until they were close to the land of Earth to attack. After an hour, the trees started to thin out, so they began their planned attack. They threw multiple kunai with explosive tags at the supplies first, causing both the wagons carrying them to blow up, which in turn left some of the shinobi around it hurt. Who are you? One of the stone yelled as he jumped away from a volley of kunai that came at him. Kakashi jumped down from a tree behind the ninja and charged at him with a chidori. Kakashi Hataki, he said before he strikes his enemy through the back with his chidori. I'm gonna kill you, leaf brats. Another IWA shinobi said from behind Kakashi. He swiped at Kakashi with a kunai in hand. Kakashi dodges by jumping over him and doing seals while in the air. Fire style, fireball jutsu, he exclaimed as he landed on the ground. A medium-sized fireball shot at the IWA Nin as he did his seals. Earth style, mud wall, he exclaimed as a wall of the earth came up to block the fireball. Obito jumped behind the enemy Nin and prepared his seals. Fire style, fireball jutsu, he exclaimed, sending his fireball at the IWA Jounin. The Jounin turned as he meets the fireball, already doing seals for another jutsu. Earth style, Terra shield, he exclaimed as he struck the ground and a large wall of earth in front of him. Guy came up on the side of the Jounin, running to him at his full speed. Leaf hurricane, he yelled as he released a succession of high kicks and low kicks at the Jounin. The Jounin was sent flying as the last kick, a spinning roundhouse, landed. He then opened the gate of opening and rushed at the Jounin, who was getting up from the ground. He kicked the Jounin in the air, then uses shadow of the dancing leaf to get behind him. Once behind him, the guy uses his bandages on his arm to restrain the stone ninja before grabbing him and spinning ferociously as he piles drive him into the ground head first. As the smoke cleared, Guy was sitting upon the ground before he slowly got up. All the other Jounin were defeated and the supplies were destroyed. Now all they had to do was stay there and make sure no other team of stone ninja came after these. After their mission was over, there were rumors of the war ending, but nothing was concrete. Now all Obito was concerned about was October 10th. Chapter 17. Obito was on edge as he didn't go to sleep at all. He wanted to be careful as, just as last time, Kushina was pregnant and was due on October 10th. He and Kakashi were in charge of secretly following Kushina to watch her while he was at the office. Minato became the 4th Hokage about a year ago, as it was before Kushina got pregnant, making him a lot busier than usual. This was also a test that Minato set for Obito and Kakashi, as Kushina was a sensory Nin, and if she didn't sense them without really trying, then their first mission as ANBU would be a success. And so far, for almost 9 months, they weren't seen or sensed, so he would give them better and real missions to test their capabilities. Rin was also directly helping Kushina, like helping her walk or shopping and talking with her all day. She loved helping Kushina, so she didn't mind at all. That baby is taking way too long to come out, Obito muttered as he and Kakashi were in a dark corner close to their sensei's house where Rin and Kushina were in. Well, it does take 9 months and it's almost over, so stop complaining. We're in ANBU now, so we can't show emotions, Kakashi said in a whisper. I know that already, Obito responded before looking through the window at Kushina and Rin talking. It just feels like it's taking forever. he said as Kakashi just stared at him. Nighttime. Obito was tense all day. He was getting flashbacks and images of Minato and Kushina during the attack. He was gonna be ready for anything, and even though he knows where Kushina is going to give birth, he didn't go as he wanted to make sure Shisui and Itachi were safe. Minato and Kushina. Minato smiled at their baby that they named Naruto. He was adorable and he wanted to hold him forever, but he had to focus on the seal that was weakened. He didn't want the nine tails to break free and cause havoc. Get away from the Jinchuriki. A deep voice demanded, causing Minato to stop and turn around. Minato's eyes widened as he looked at a hooded figure who had a kunai to his son's head. 25. Hey, calm down? Minato yelled desperately as he stepped away from Kushina after secretly placing a flying thunder god seal on the table Kushina was on. I'm as calm as I can be, the hooded figure stated calmly. Minato couldn't see his face but felt the chakra around his hood. It must be a genjutsu he placed on himself, Minato thought. What do you want? Minato asked after looking over at the guards, and the third Hokage's wife struck down like they were nothing. He kept himself from gritting his teeth as he didn't want the man to think he would attack and put Naruto in danger. The QB, of course, the hooded figure stated as if it were the simplest thing ever. Minato gawked but kept his calm and thought of an appropriate approach to the situation. He couldn't afford to make any mistakes as this guy had Naruto. The hooded figure threw Naruto in the air and multiple kunai at Naruto. Minato reacted on instinct as he quickly threw a kunai above Naruto's head and grabbed Naruto while dodging most of the kunai. He looked at Naruto intensely, looking for any signs of Naruto being hurt. That's when he heard sizzling noises from Naruto. He quickly turned Naruto around to locate what was making the noise as he found a bunch of explosive tags on the blanket around Naruto. He quickly jumped off the wall and threw the blanket off before jumping out of the exploding building, already sensing that the man had taken Kushina. He looked down at Naruto as he hugged the baby, glad that he was safe. He looked at his leg that had a kunai in it. He pulled out with a serious expression. He succeeded in separating us, he said before teleporting Naruto to a crib with Kushina and Masked Man. Kushina was hanging in the front of a large piece of rock with seals all around her. She was severely fatigued and she could barely move. Why are you doing this? She asked as she slowly moved her head up to look at the hooded man. Because, he put his hands in a ram seal before looking up. You deserve it. Now come out, QB. He yelled as he went into Kushina's seal and broke the nine tails out with genjutsu. The beast came out in a heap of red chakra before materializing and looked at a fatigued and dying Kushina. He raised his giant paws before coming down to hit Kushina with it. Kushina looked on as the strike was coming at her. She couldn't move and she was already gonna die, so she was gonna kill the QB with her. In a yellow flash, she was up in a tree as her husband had her in his arms. Minato, where's Naruto? I'll take you to him, he said as he disappeared with his famous jutsu as the hooded figure ordered the QB to attack Konoha with Kushina and Minato. Minato and Kushina appeared in the room Naruto were in as Minato carefully carried his wife to where his son was. Minato, what about the QB? She asked in a soft and tired voice. Minato smiled lightly at his wife as he carefully placed her beside Naruto. Don't worry about that. Just take care of Naruto, he said as he turned and put on his fourth Hokage cloak and disappeared in a yellow flash. Back with hooded figure. The hooded man jumped on an abandoned street in Konoha before looking around. Summoning jutsu, he yelled as in a puff of smoke the QB had appeared and woke the village with a roar. Attack QB, the hooded man ordered before disappearing without a trace. 1. The QB started swiping at buildings, destroying anything in sight. Ag, it's the QB. Civilians yelled as they started running, trying to get away. Brave shinobi came and distracted the beast, getting citizens to safety and trying to keep the QB from getting further into the village. The third Hokage appeared giving orders to more shinobi who came with him in an attempt to hold the beast in one place. His plan failed as the beast struck his shinobi down, bringing buildings down as they fell on shinobi trying to get civilians away. Summoning Jutsu. The third Hokage yelled as he summoned Monkey King Enma. Don't let it destroy our village. He yelled before joining the battle. With Kakashi, Rin, Obito, and Guy. They all turned as the Kyuubi suddenly appeared in the village. Guy and Obito were the first to break out of their stares and shocks and ran in the direction of the Kyuubi. I'll fight you with all my might, Guy yelled as he prepared himself to jump off the ground. Stop. You are not allowed to fight. A man said as he jumped in front of Guy and Obito. Why not? Obito demanded as Kakashi and Rin looked ready to take action. It's an order from the previous Hokage. I don't care. Obito stopped as someone touched his shoulder. It's okay, Obito. You heard the man, let's go. He said, but Obito heard his voice. Obito took a deep breath as he already got Itachi, Sasuke, and Shisui out of harm's way, but he wouldn't believe it until he was sure, so he agreed to go. He closed his eyes hoping that Minato could handle it without him helping. With Minato. Minato appeared on his head on the Hokage's monument. He looked over to where he felt the Kyuubi as he looked at it destroying the building and killing brave shinobi. He hardened his gaze as the Kyuubi seemed to notice him and started creating a tailed beast bomb. No, you don't. He said before doing seals and drawing his special kunai as the Kyuubi launched the tailed beast bomb. When the bomb got close, it stopped and seals started to form in front of it as it started to sink into the seals. It's so powerful. I'll have to be careful of where I send it. As he looked on at the Kyuubi as it seemed to have stopped for now. I have to tell the third everything that happened. He thought before turning around and swinging his kunai as he felt something behind him. The hooded man simply dodged the strike before grabbing the Hokage's wrist. I'll kill you myself, he said dangerously. Minato teleported both of them away from the village as he didn't want anyone getting hurt by being dragged into the fight. They both jumped away from each other as soon as they arrived at their location. Minato got into a defensive position as he came to halt while his opponent stood still, not bothering to get his guard up. 2. I can't underestimate him, especially not by the feats I've seen. Such as sneaking up behind me and almost killing me. Minato thought as he narrowed his eyes. Why are you doing this? Do you have a grudge against Konoha? Why? The hooded man echoed. It's because Konoha deserves it. I'll destroy this village and recreate this world. 3. Over my dead body, Minato stated before the two rushed at each other. 2. With Obito. So Obito, what's your plan? Kakashi asked as he came up behind Obito. Position as he came to halt while his opponent stood still, not bothering to get his guard up. Plan? Ya planned to get out, he said, pointing at one of the sides of the barrier we were in. And how would you know I'm planning something? Obito asked as he turned around. I just got a feeling. Yeah, no. Kakashi shrugged. And besides, I've never known you to sit still while people were fighting. Obito scratched the back of his head. Well, I was thinking about something. He looked at Kakashi. You in? You bet. With Minato. Minato clashes with the hooded man in taijutsu. The hooded man was dodging every single one of his attacks with no problems. Minato realized that he wasn't just dodging, he was completely reading his attacks as he seemed to react before Minato was even gonna strike him. Minato backed up as he looked over his opponent. He couldn't see his face nor his eyes, so he didn't know what the man felt or if he was faking not being tired. How is he dodging all my attacks? He's reading me like an open book. Minato thought as he scowled. It's upsetting, is it? Having known that you will die and your fate will not change. The hooded man stated. I'll kill you and then I'll destroy this village to avenge what I've lost. And what this village took from me. I'm the Hokage and I must protect the village. You won't get your way, Minato said. The hooded man chuckled. Come. With the third Hokage. The Monkey King that Hiruzen summoned transformed into a pole. And while it was distracted by Minato, he used the staff to push the Biju out of the village. But now they had to fight it directly. 1. Be careful and distracted until the fourth gets here, Hiruzen ordered his shinobi as the beast roared. Don't give up. With Obito and Kakashi. Alright, gimme your hand, Obito said as he held out his hand to Kakashi. Kakashi perplexed. Why do you need my hand? Oh, stop being a baby and come on. We wanna save some people, right? Kakashi sighed as he held his hand out to his best friend. Right. As Obito grabbed his hand, he turned to the barrier that, for now, didn't have many people on the other side. Obito went up to the barrier as he activated his Mangekyo and slipped through with Kakashi before running like hell as Kakashi followed, bewildered at his friend's ability. Obito, when could you do that? Kakashi asked as he turned to Obito after matching his speed. For a while, and I'll tell you about it later. He answered, feeling what Kakashi's next question was going to be. All Kakashi did was nod. They both raced to where they felt the Kyuubi, not knowing what to expect, but Obito had an idea. Back to Hiruzen. Hokage-sama, what do we do? It won't die. A random soldier asked as the previous Hokage was assessing the situation. It seemed nothing they did affect the beast, and all their attempts had gotten the beast angry, and it killed so many shinobi. Hiruzen refrained from sighing as it wasn't Hokage-like. He had to make tough decisions even though he wasn't the Hokage anymore. We have to hold him here, Hiruzen said before he looked at the soldier. No matter what. Yes, Hokage-sama. He said as he straightened up and joined the battle. The Hokage's face twisted as he felt a huge amount of chakra in front of him. It was the Kyuubi preparing a tailed beast bomb that would destroy all of them in an instant. The Kyuubi released the chakra as Hiruzen and his shinobi stared wide-eyed at its size and how much chakra was compacted into it. Then it just disappeared into a spiral. 2. WH. What happened to the blast? A random shinobi asked before turning like everyone else after hearing something come to the ground. Hiruzen turned wide-eyed as he looked at two of Minato's students that weren't supposed to be here. What are you two doing here? Protecting the village, Obito stated before looking at the Kyuubi with his Sharingan activated. He knew he would have to explain a lot later to both Kakashi and Hiruzen, but he needed to stop this attack because innocent people were dying. Hokage-sama, the Kyuubi is under a genjutsu, Obito called out as he looked over the Kyuubi. Are you sure? He asked uncertainly. I'm positive. Obito nodded. Can you break the genjutsu? Hiruzen looking at the Kyuubi to make sure it wouldn't attack. Obito said before he got cut off by the Kyuubi as it swung its claws at them. Some of the shinobi got caught in it while most escaped by jumping away in time. As they came down, the Kyuubi swung one of its tails at them as the most experienced and good shinobi got out the way, while some got caught, causing them to be flung kilometers away and dust to be everywhere in the area. I get the feeling we should have stayed. Obito heard Kakashi say beside him. Well, maybe, but then the third would be dead. Kakashi shrugged a little. I guess you're right. He lifted his headband from over his left eye as his jujutsu that he only possessed glowed. You're getting serious, huh? Obito asked as he looked at Kakashi's eye. Well, there is a giant fox destroying things and killing people, so I guess it's the appropriate time. He answered. They both stopped talking as they felt the same dense, heavy chakra that was building up above the smoke. It's the Kyuubi again. Get back! The third yelled in an attempt to get everyone away from the Kyuubi. The dust in the area cleared as the bomb was launched and was coming at all the shinobi full force. Obito activated his Mangekyo, getting ready to use his long-range Kamui to get rid of the bomb. That's when Minato appeared and made the bomb disappear before landing on the ground softly. Sensei, where were you? Kakashi asked, causing Minato to turn to them wide-eyed. If he were a second late, then his two students would be dead. I got tied up. He turned to where the Kyuubi was. I'll handle the QB, he said before appearing on top of the QB and disappearing with it. He must have teleported the QB with himself. Hiruzen fought before getting all his shinobi to follow him to help Minato and letting Obito and Kakashi join. 15 minutes earlier, Minato got into another taijutsu battle with the hooded man but noticed that even though he was dodging this time he wasn't reading Minato's movements like he was before. Then it must be some jutsu that he can't use repeatedly, Minato thought as he jumped away. I need to know how much the interval between his uses of the technique. Fire style, vanishing attack, the hooded man exclaimed as he stomped the ground, causing a crack that goes under Minato. He then sends fire into the crack and clasps his hands together, causing a large and fiery explosion where Minato was. Minato used his famous technique to escape before doing seals for a jutsu. Wind style, air bullets, he exclaimed, sending multiple bullets of air at the hooded man with intense speed. Fire style, phoenix flower jutsu, the hooded man exclaimed, launching small fireballs that cancelled out Minato's attack and went straight at him. Minato dodges them all, and as the last one passed him he threw his special kunai at the man and teleported to it as it went past the man. He grabbed the kunai out of the air and turned quickly as he swiped at the hooded man with the kunai. Minato got into another taijutsu fight with the man, as this time he read Minato like a book and countered Minato's strikes with his own. The man hit Minato, causing him to skid backward before stopping. Do you see what I mean? The hooded man started. These are your last moments. Do enjoy them. Minato wiped his mouth as his hardened gaze swept over his enemy. He's using that technique again. That had to be at least 2 minutes. I'll have to defeat him before then. Minato took out 3 of his special kunai and threw around his enemy before placing one in front of him on the ground. He created a shadow clone, and without a word, both he and the clone teleported to each point around the enemy to confuse him. The clone teleported to one of the kunai in front of the man before running at him, causing the man to react and just barely dodge before unsheathing his sword and slicing the clone, causing it to pop in a puff of smoke. Minato was already over his head with a Rasengan ready. He brought the Rasengan down to what he thought was his opponent's head, but it connected with solid rock. It created a small explosion that made a little dust fly around as Minato jumped back to get a look at his enemy. When everything settled down, the Hokage looked on as a dome was over the hooded man's head where there was a small crater left in the dome. Where did that come from? 1 second it's just him, and then the next that Earth is just there. I didn't even see him do any seals, Minato thought. The earth around the man broke off as he stared at Minato. You truly are fast. I can see why IWA put a flee on-site order when coming up to you. I didn't even think I would need to use that technique, but it seems I shouldn't underestimate you. Minato's eyes widened as the ground in between the two turned into spikes before being launched into the air. Minato was about to look up but stopped as he felt the man coming at his. The man ran at Minato with his sword still out and swung it at Minato, causing them to fight with the sword to kunai. They both dodged hits and deflected swings, not landing any blows to each other. The man dodged a swing of Minato's kunai before bringing his down on Minato as he blocked it and made a Rasengan. He pushed the sword up before jumping toward the man, trying to land the Rasengan to his stomach. Rasengan! He exclaimed as he landed the attack and made the man fly back as a result. The man landed hard against a rock as he struggled to get back up. Minato came up to the man and put a contact seal on him to take away his control of the QB. 2. That's when Minato noticed hundreds of spikes in the air that were coming down fast. He started doing seals, keeping his cool while making sure the hooded man wasn't gonna get up and attack. Wind style, hurricane wall, Minato exclaimed while summoning a swirling stream of wind that encased him and repelled the attacks. After dispelling the jutsu, Minato looked at the hooded man as he got to his feet holding a bloodied stomach. I'll rule this world, he started before a cloud of smoke started appearing around him. There are several ways to do so, were the last words that were said before Minato teleported to where the QB was. With Minato and the QB, Minato jumped off the beast as they reached their destination. He dodged strikes by the Kyuubi and restrained from fighting the Kyuubi back. He wanted the village to have the Kyuubi as an asset so he couldn't kill it even if he could. Minato teleported to where Kushina and Naruto had just made the toughest decision of his life. Feeling her husband's chakras suddenly come into the room, she turned to him slowly while still holding Naruto. "Minato, is it over?" she asked softly. "No," he said as he came up to where they were. I need Naruto." "Why?" To seal the Kyuubi," Minato answered. Kushina went wide-eyed as he softly picked up Naruto. "I'll need your help to Kushina." But Naruto he'll be fine. If we don't do this, Konoha could be destroyed," Minato said seriously. Okay," she said as she closed her eyes, giving in. "I'm sorry," Minato said as he hugged Kushina and teleported back to where the Kyuubi was. As soon as they got there, Kushina used her chakra chains to restrain the Kyuubi as Minato placed Naruto on a ritual altar. "Do we have to, Minato? We could just kill the Kyuubi instead," Kushina asked. "We could. But that would be selfish. Like the Hokage, I'm supposed to put the village first, and losing the Kyuubi puts us at a disadvantage against the other great nations. I don't want to put such a heavy burden on Naruto, but," he looked up at Kushina. "We both know that it has to be this way." 1. Kushina nodded her head as Minato started doing the seals for the Reaper Death Seal. A ghostly purple Reaper appeared as Minato stopped to look at Kushina. "Don't worry, I'll put some of your chakras inside of the seal so that you can help him." He didn't get a response, just a nod as he proceeded to split the Kyuubi's chakra in half and making himself a Jinchuriki. Ignoring how he felt with chakra inside of him, he turned to Naruto as he was getting ready to put the rest in Naruto. "Kushina was getting weaker as getting a Biju extracted from you killed you. Her chains loosened as a result of her condition." The Kyuubi saw the ritual altar and raised his claws to make sure he didn't get sealed. Minato and Kushina jumped in the way, getting impaled through their stomachs. Minato, you have to hurry," Kushina said, using her remaining strength, chakra, and willpower to tighten her chakra chains around the Kyuubi. Summoning jutsu. Minato got out as a sealing frog came in a puff of smoke. "What's going on?" he asked as he looked at his summoner and the Kyuubi. "Could you hold the key for the seal?" Minato asked lowly. After getting the key, the summoned frog left as Kushina turned to Naruto. They both were about to die, and so all she told Naruto things in hope that he would turn out well. And before they faded, Minato muttered a couple of words. 8 trigram seal. The Kyuubi disappeared into Naruto before the Reaper disappeared after having served its purpose. Hiruzen, Obito, Kakashi, and a small number of ninja found Minato and Kushina dead with a crying baby with a seal on its stomach. Kakashi and Obito's eyes widened as they ran to Minato and Kushina's lifeless bodies. No, Obito muttered as they arrived at the bodies. "I knew I should have just came with sensei," he thought as he balled his fist. 1. A hand touched his shoulder as he turned to it, looking at the previous Hokage. The old man didn't say anything, so Obito turned back to the bodies, grieving silently. Chapter 18. Obito rushed out the door of his apartment with toast in his mouth. He was a little late to train Shisui and Itachi, but he'd make up with it with some food. Shisui always got food out of him, so it wasn't like it was new. Obito trained them when he wasn't on duty as a member of the ANBU Black Ops. He also watched after the 5-year-old Naruto, as did Kakashi, but Rin usually took care of him. Neither of them could adopt him because of the fact that Obito and Kakashi were in ANBU and Rin had become a jounin a little while ago, making her a lot busier than usual. Late again, Obito, Fugaku asked as he moved out the way to let the young Uchiha in. "Yeah, sorry," he said as he grinned up at the clan leader. "Well, apology accepted. The boys are already outside waiting on you," he said before walking back to his study. He stopped after opening the door. "And Obito, when you're done, could you come talk to me after training?" "Sure." And with that, the Uchiha clan leader went into his study while Obito went to where his students were. He walked up to see that his students were already sparring with each other. They both were prodigies that graduated the academy their first year and became chunin early in their ninja careers. Already training, I see. That caused the two prodigies to stop and look over to the voice to find their teacher. "Hey, Obito-ni-chan," Shisui yelled as he ran to his teacher. "You're late again," he said as he reached Obito. "Sorry I got held up," Obito said as he scratched the back of his head before looking at Itachi, who walked up to them. "Hello, Nizan," Itachi greeted. Obito smiled as he greeted the boy back and told them to start a warm-up to stretch. Obito and Shisui had finally gotten through Itachi as the two boys were best friends, and he finally called Obito Nizan. They had tried to change it but left it alone, figuring it be the best they would get. Obito started them on a tough workout that would get them ready to join him in the ANBU. He wanted both of them to join when Itachi turned 13, and so he even thought he had 3 years. He still trained them hard. They both mastered their Sharingan to the point where they were better than most adult Uchiha. Shisui had his Mangekyo but couldn't maintain it quite yet. He told both of the boys about the Mangekyo, such as its abilities, how you get it, and what it can do to you. He also told them forbidden Uchiha Jutsu but forbid either of them to use it. The only thing he didn't say was how they could make the Mangekyo not make them go blind, but he'd fix that. He already put 6 paths chakra in both their eyes so their eyes wouldn't deteriorate, but he didn't want them going overboard and using the Mangekyo like crazy. After another training session, he bid farewell to the younger Uchiha who were panting as they laid on the ground. He knocked on Fugaku's door that went into his study. Fugaku opened the door and let Obito in before closing the door behind him and walked behind his desk as he sat down with a heavy and tired sigh. "Obito, I didn't come to you with this since you weren't an adult yet, but," he stopped to look up at Obito with tired eyes. "Now you are. The clan is getting blamed for the Kyuubi attack that happened 5 years ago." He finished, then watched the younger Uchiha, seeing how he would react. "I know," Obito replied. "I've been snooping around because I've noticed how the Uchiha are looked at when walking in the village." He pointed at the ground. "And why the compound was suddenly moved to the edge of the village. I had to get answers." The Uchiha clan leader inclined his head. "Do you know why they don't trust our clan?" "I'm guessing they're going by how we didn't get involved with the attack and the fact that they know a genjutsu was used on the fox. And since we're the clan with the most talented genjutsu users in the village, I guess the blame came to us." Obito replied with a nod. Fugaku kept silence, seemingly taking in the new information. "I suspected as much," he replied before sighing. "Can you keep an eye out for any more developments? I need to try and fix the situation before it goes from bad to worst." Obito thought about what the older Uchiha was asking. He knew that Fugaku was trying his best to calm the members and elders of the clan down. This was prejudice against the clan, and he needed to help before the Uchiha even think about starting the coup. "I will," Obito answered, then got out of his chair, still facing the Uchiha clan leader. "If you don't mind, I would like for the boys to know. I feel like they're mature enough, and plus they've probably already suspected something. I was thinking about whether I would tell them anyway." So, he stopped as he rubbed the bridge of his nose. "I'll do it when the time is right." "Okay," Obito said as he walked out the door and shut it behind him, leaving a tired clan leader in the room. Obito jumped from rooftop to rooftop on his way to the Hokage's tower. Hiruzen has come out of retirement after Minato had died. Obito knew that Hiruzen also wanted to keep things peaceful, and although the Uchiha clan weren't planning a coup yet, Obito decided to be safe than sorry. After scheduling an appointment with the Hokage and waiting in the lobby in thought for about 20 minutes, he was allowed to see the Hokage. He walked through the hallway, and after reaching the door he knocked on it and waited for the come-in before walking in and shutting the door behind him. "Obito, is anything wrong?" the Hokage asked after assessing the small frown on the Uchiha's face. "No, I'm fine," Obito said, waving his hand dismissively. "Well, then what's the occasion? You've never come to talk to me before," Hiruzen said, setting his pen on his desk. "Well, it's about the Uchiha clan, sir." Hiruzen rubbed his temples, thinking about everything that happened surrounding one of Konoha's most powerful clan. What about the clan? With all the blame and prejudice the clan is receiving, members are becoming restless. I want to try and keep the peace if possible, but I figured out that I can't do it alone. He looked up to the leader of the village. If possible, I would like you to make it so that the Uchiha have a job in the village that contributes to the village's safety in future. Something that only the Uchiha has so that it can feel as if they are trusted. The Hokage inclined his head. And what would you have in mind? Well, ever since the Kyuubi attack, there has been a considerable number of people who steal as a result of their homes and businesses being destroyed. Perhaps having our clan being the police of the village and have just as much a say in politics as other clans, that we can avoid conflict and bring peace. Obito answered. Obito knew that having the police force at least held off the idea of a coup for a couple of years, and so having it a little earlier would give him time to see how he would resolve the conflict. 3. I see. I like this plan and will take it up with elders and other clans. But, here's what I want to know. What part in all of this do you play? The Hokage asked. Well, I guess I'd be the peacekeeper. I'm on the side of peace, as with the state the village is in right now, the last thing we need is a civil war. Obito answered after thinking a bit. The Hokage smiled internally as he thought over what Obito said. Perhaps his next successor was right in front of him. Okay, like I said earlier, I'll see what I can do. Is there anything else, Obito? Obito got up and slightly bowed his head. No, sir. Thank you for your time. He stopped as he opened the door. And if you don't mind, may you keep how you got this idea between me and you? Of course. The Hokage answered. And with that, he left the Hokage's office with a smile on his face. 2 hours later, Obito's house. Obito sat down a paintbrush softly on a cloth as he heard a knock at the door. He was working on a seal that he had been for almost 2 years. He was trying to match a teleportation seal to work in sync with his Kamui, but he wasn't having much success. With a frustrated sigh, he walked to the door, leaving his work behind in the living room. When he opened the door, he found his 2 best friends and teammates on the other side, who let themselves in. What are you working on, Obito? Rin asked as she inspected the seal that was in the living room. Why are you guys here? He asked, ignoring the question. He was pretty upset and frustrated about the seal, but he hoped he'd get it someday. What do you mean, why are we here? Rin echoed confusingly. Don't you remember that we set up a whole party at that new restaurant with everyone? No, Obito said before pointing at the door. Now can you leave so that I can get back to work? Sorry, but, Kakashi started before putting his hand on Obito's shoulder. If I gotta go, you're coming too. 30 minutes later. They were seated at the restaurant that opened a couple of weeks ago. It was Obito, Kakashi, Rin, Guy, Asuma, Kurenai, Gamma, Hate, Anko, and Ebisu. So I was dragged here, why? Obito asked after taking a seat on the end of the booth beside the window. Don't act like that, Rin said as she sat beside him. You're the one who helped me plan it. Well, I just wanted to reschedule it. I was doing something important. Obito replied gruffly as he picked up a menu. Yeah, like working on a seal by yourself is anything compared to hanging out with friends, she said sarcastically. I think that hanging with your friends is the very definition of youthfulness, Guy exclaimed, interrupting what Obito was about to say and almost lifting the table off the ground. Calm down, Guy. Danma glared at the taijutsu specialist. Don't make a scene, he said as he felt the stares of almost everyone that was in the restaurant. They were talking and laughing for a little until the food had finally came. Obito turned from the window where he was daydreaming. It just happened to look at a grinning Anko. He automatically knew that this wasn't good, and either she was thinking about a prank or the prank she set was in motion and almost complete. What are you so happy for, Anko? Obito asked, bending over and putting his forearm on the table. Mind your business, she replied before giving Obito a predator-like look. Or you could be next. Oh, I'm so scared. Please don't hurt me, Obito said in a monotone voice. Shut up, you red-eyed bastard! Anko yelled as she glared at him. This is the reason I don't like aggressive women. You're all crazy. Obito, don't provoke her. Kurenai whisper yelled to me. I'm not provoking her. It's not my fault that girls are just too overly sensitive. Obito answered back in a huff. 4. This will not turn out good, Ganma muttered before he turned to Hey-8. You already got the escape plan ready, right? Hey-8 coughed. Yeah. So you're saying I'm overly sensitive? Kurenai asked dangerously with narrowed eyes. Where did that even come from? Obito yelled with a dumbfounded expression. Kakashi, did I say anything like that? He asked as he turned to his best friend. 1. The latter had a book in his hand with a relaxed aura around him. He looked up from behind his book slightly. My name's Bennett and I ain't in it. 2. You're the one who dragged me here, asshole. Obito yelled before Kakashi ignored him, flipping to the next page in his book. Hey, Red, don't think this is finished, Anko said with a glare. Obito glared back. Don't call me that. Anko smirked dangerously. Shut the hell up, Red. 1. You're letting me in on this plan too, right? Ebisu whispered to Ganma and in turn, received a nod. Obito eye twitched before he leaned over the table and pointed at Anko. That's it. You're one to talk when you've got snakes up your pustache. Obito yelled before Asuma jumped up and put his hand over Obito's mouth. 2. Dude, don't say that, Asuma said nervously. Are you crazy? No. I'm Dash. Obito was interrupted by a huge burp that came from Guy. Guy had small blush lines around his cheeks and he was waddling like an idiot with a stupid look on his face. Anko must have put something in his drink. He thought before he remembered what Guy did the last time he was drunk or delirious. Fuck. 2. Sprying with the power of youth. Guy yelled as he jumped up from his seat, causing the table to fall over and food to be everywhere. He started doing leaf hurricanes and punching and kicking anything that was in front of him. Guy, stop. Obito yelled as he ran from the booth to stop Guy. So is now a good time to leave? Ganma asked Hey-8 and Ebisu. Yeah. They both answered before getting up to leave and leaving the bill to someone else. Aren't you guys gonna help? Kakashi asked, sitting calmly and flipping a page in his book. He wasn't even making an effort to try himself. Aren't you? Anko retorted. I did help. I told Guy to stop, but he didn't. He said as he grabbed his drink and brought it behind his book where he somehow took a sip. That's not really helping. Well, I don't see you doing anything. Anko snorted. The day that I help that red-eyed bastard is the day the dead rises from the ground. 6. Asuma releases a sigh before getting up. I'll go help. He muttered before running to where the two were. Well, do you guys want to go home? Rin asked. The others shrugged and left, but Rin was the only one to leave money on the table, which Anko took as she left. Leaf hurricane, Guy yelled in a slur before doing his one signature moves. Guy Sto-Obito managed to get out before he got kicked in the stomach, sending him flying across and fought the walls of the restaurant. And with that, Guy fell asleep on the ground. Asuma took Guy and explained, after checking his wallet, to the owner of the restaurant who would be paying for everything before leaving. Obito's eyes melted off seeing that many zeros as soon as he woke up from Guy's kick. He crumpled up the paper in his hand, swearing he would get them back someday. 2 years later. 1. Alright, guys, follow me, Obito said as walked up to where his team still practiced and trained together. They made it a tradition at least one time a month they'd come back and train there together after Minato had died. Obito stopped in the middle of the clearing as he looked at his two students. He knew teaching them was a good idea as both had already made name for themselves. Shisui the 15-year-old was a jounin and was already named as Shisui of Teleporter, while Itachi the 12-year-old, while still a chunin, was already famous as Itachi of the Sharingan, and his genjutsu and ninjutsu prowess were only second to Shisui, Fugaku, and Obito himself. Alright, I told you both that you'll be joining my squad in ANBU when Itachi reaches the age of 13. And since his birthday is in a couple of weeks, I thought that I would need to test your abilities firsthand and see if you're good enough to be on my squad. Obito cleared his throat after watching his two students. He pulled out a small bell and held it up in front of him. This will be our first time sparring. Your objective is to take this bell by morning. If you don't, then you're obviously not ready for the ANBU. Is everything clear? 1. Yes. They both replied with serious expressions. Obito smiled before attaching the bell to his waist and made sure it would stay on. Okay then, begin. And with that, the Uchiha disappeared into the trees while Obito stood back into the middle of the clearing. After about 10 minutes, Shisui emerged from the forest by himself and activated his Sharingan. Obito, in turn, activated his Sharingan, noticing how Itachi was missing. Do you think you're ready to take me on all on your own? Obito mused. Shisui smirked before reaching behind his back and into his weapons pouch. Of course. He said before he threw a volley of kunai at Obito. Obito dodges and deflects all the kunai as Shisui uses his the body flicker technique to get behind Obito. He grabs one of the kunai that Obito dodged earlier before turning on the spot and slashing at Obito. Obito deflects it with his own kunai as both were half turned away from each other. Itachi, who seemingly came out of nowhere, was in the air already doing seals for a jutsu. Fire style, fireball jutsu. He exclaimed, releasing a large fireball as Shisui teleported away. Going through seals himself, Obito released a jutsu. Water style, water trumpet. He exclaimed, releasing a large jet of water at the fireball ball. Shisui, who was teleported a little away, ran to Obito full speed before taking out his tanto and swinging it at Obito. Obito pushed as much chakra he could into the last of his jutsu before cancelling it and ducking under the younger Uchiha's attack before hopping away to a safe distance. Itachi landed on the ground, looking at his teacher carefully for any sudden movement. Good job. But I hope you know this is still a warm-up. Obito said. You're right, Shisui said before giving Itachi a sideways glance. Itachi looked back before running to Obito full speed. After dodging a punch sent by Itachi, Itachi engaged in a taijutsu clash with Obito. After a little while of fighting, Itachi jumped back, releasing fire-infused shuriken at Obito. Obito dodged each one, and as he dodges the last one, he noticed that it isn't coated with fire. The said shuriken turned into a puff of smoke before introducing a clone version of Itachi, who was already going through the same seals as the original. Fire style ninja art, fire run. They both exclaimed, making a large fireball that expanded wide. Shisui, who sidelined himself for a while, went through his own seals. Wind style ninja art, divine wind. He muttered that he created a small tornado that mixed with Itachi's jutsu, creating a tornado of flames around Obito. Searing heat went through the area as the jutsu died down, with 3 onlookers looking for Obito. Do you think we went too far, Itachi? Shisui asked as he scratched the top of his head. That's my clone, and maybe, Itachi answered as he jumped down from a rock. Just as Shisui was about to respond, a volley of kunai and shuriken came at Itachi, who saw them just in time before getting impaled. The impaled Itachi fell over before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Quick as ever, I see. A voice mused from across them. I didn't think you'd be able to substitute your clone in time. Good job, Obito said as he came into the natural sunlight. Well, I figured the kunai would have hurt, Itachi said in a monotone. Obito said as he cracked his neck. I guess it's my turn to go on the offensive, he said, making the younger Uchiha focus more on him. After going through seals faster than the younger Uchiha could move, Obito jumped in the air, and after needing his chakra he released a powerful fire jutsu. Fire style, flame flower. He exclaimed, sending multiple large fireballs at Itachi and Shisui. Shisui grabbed Itachi before using his signature technique and disappearing. Obito's attack caused destruction to the whole area, and Shisui has no doubt that if they stayed down there things would not have ended up good. As Obito landed on the ground, Shisui and Itachi, already synced with each other, unleashed a fire jutsu. Fire style, fireball jutsu. They exclaimed as their jutsu combined, creating a giant fireball heading in Obito's direction. Earth style, Terra shield, Obito exclaimed as he formed a large wall in the front of him and successfully blocking the attack. Shisui was above the wall grabbing the tanto on his back. Obito noticed that the jutsu was still receiving chakra, which meant that this was a clone, or that one with Itachi was a hinged Itachi clone. Uchiha style, Halo dance. He exclaimed as he unsheathes his tanto and coats it in fire before releasing multiple waves of flame towards Obito. Damn it, if I released my jutsu I might get hit with Itachi's jutsu. Obito thought. Shadow clone jutsu. Obito exclaimed, creating a clone who pulled out a sealing scroll. Sealing jutsu, fire seal. The clone used the technique that sealed Shisui's fire style. Damn, I thought that would work, Shisui muttered as he landed on the ground. Same, Itachi said after he released his jutsu and his clone dispelled. Not a bad plan, Obito said as he grinned at his students. But surely you guys aren't giving up. No way, Shisui said as determination went through his mind. We'll get those bells, come on Itachi. He said as he started running towards Obito with Itachi following. Shisui jumped, bringing his fist down to where Obito dodges and pushes the next punch away from him. He then sends his own, in which Shisui ducks under and then jumps over a leg sweep and aiming a kick at Obito in the process. Obito blocks the kick with his forearm as Shisui uses the forearm to jump in the air. Itachi immediately takes his place aiming a kick, in which Obito blocks. Obito grabbed his feet as Itachi picked up his other foot from the ground aiming a kick. Obito uses his free arm to block as Shisui uses the body flicker technique to appear above Obito with his tanto unsheathed and encased with fire. Uchiha style, fire slash. He exclaimed, swinging his fire-encased blade at Obito. He seemingly hits Obito before he turned into a log. Substitution. Shisui muttered fast as he searched around for Obito. Suddenly the training field they were in changed into the Uchiha compound where they used to train at. Really Nichan, Genjutsu, Shisui yelled as he and Itachi formed the seal to release the Genjutsu. Their surroundings changed back to the training field, but it had explosive tags all around them. What the hell? Shisui muttered as he went back to back with Itachi. They suddenly felt searing heat above them as they looked up quickly to find a tremendous ball of fire falling from the sky. Shit, Shisui muttered as Itachi was thinking the same thing. Shisui grabbed Itachi's shoulder and used his technique to get out of the minefield, but the tremendous ball of fire was still right on top of them. Itachi's eyes widened before his Sharingan glowed, releasing him and Shisui from the elaborate Genjutsu. When their surroundings returned to normal, they saw a smirking Obito in front of them. Have a nice time in the Genjutsu, I hope. Obito mused as he looked over his sweating students. He held up 2 fingers. I used 2 Genjutsu at the same time. I know you guys wouldn't be able to see it coming. Genjutsu, double optic delusory and demon illusion, fire jutsu. We're used in that order. I guess we'll have to be more careful then, Shisui said. Itachi, not one to talk, created a shadow clone who ran at Obito full speed. Obito thought it would be a regular attack, so he let the clone get close, but instead of attacking, the clone exploded out of nowhere. Shadow clone explosion. Obito has just managed to get away by jumping in the air, but Shisui was already in the air in front of Obito. He prepared to hit Obito, but Obito was prepared and he quickly created a mud clone that he traded places with. Shisui's punch went through the clone's body before it reverted to earth and trapping Shisui's hand. The cursed seal spread on throughout Shisui's body, completely trapping Shisui as they fell to the ground. Clone trap. As Obito landed on the ground, Itachi was going through seals in preparation for a jutsu. Water-style bullet, Orca. He exclaimed, releasing a huge surge of water on top of Obito. After sensing the attack, Obito went through the necessary seals for his own jutsu. Earth-style, rock shelter. He exclaimed, surrounding himself with earth from his immediate vicinity. The earth held as the water-based attack hit it head-on, creating an explosion. Itachi took this time to help break Shisui out of the clone trap. Once Shisui was free, they disappeared into the forest to think of a plan and wait for night to fall, which wasn't very long. "We need a plan," Shisui whispered as he looked at Itachi. They temporarily retreated into the forest to think of a strategy. "Nothing is working." "I know," Itachi responded calmly, thinking about everything they've seen from Obito so far. Even though Obito has trained them for years, they never spared with his, so this was their first time feeling his power firsthand. "But I can't think of anything that'll work." They crouched on the branches of the tree thinking of an appropriate strategy to get the bells. Itachi's eyes widened as a plan came to his mind. After going over it in his head, he whispered the plan to Shisui as they went through it and tweaked it accordingly. This was gonna be their last chance to get the bells. Chapter 19. After tweaking their plan, they set their sights on their teacher. They went to near the clearing but stayed in the forest as they didn't see Obito. He was gone from the area as they sensed the area and didn't sense him at all. 1. Itachi, Shisui whispered to Itachi as they had just finished searching the perimeter. "What is it?" "I think we should try to track him," Shisui said. "We'll never be able to get those bells if we can't find him." "True," Itachi said as he looked around the area. "But if he left any trace of himself, we would have already found it." Shisui thought about it before releasing a heavy sigh. "Damn it, you're right." Shisui looked up at the sky, noticing how everything was so peaceful. There were birds who settled in trees while owls caught flight to find their food at night. Shisui's eyes widened as he finally figured out what was going on. He turned to a startled Itachi. "Dude, this is a genjutsu." Itachi turned back in confusion to Shisui. "Really?" "Yeah. Now come on, help me break it," he said before they both released the genjutsu in sync. They turned back to the clearing to find an Obito against a tree looking directly at them. "I knew you two would figure it out eventually." Genjutsu, false surrounding world. "How did you figure it out, Shisui?" Shisui smirked. "I'd seen those animals in the sky. I thought of all the techniques we've been using, so I knew that with the giant ones we were using there would be no way any animal would stay in this area." "Good job. But the fight isn't over yet as you haven't even touched the bells. And it's almost morning, so I'd make it snappy," Obito taunted. Itachi and Shisui simultaneously went through different seals while syncing their chakra. "Fire style, fireball jutsu," Itachi exclaimed as Shisui exclaimed. "Wind style, focused air current." Their attacks combined, making the large fireball a lot bigger and hotter. "Water style, water shield," Obito exclaimed, launching a ball of water that turned into a shield and deflected the fire-based attack, causing an explosion. Itachi went through the explosion and with Shisui's tanto in hand attempted to hit Obito. Obito dodges to the side as Itachi goes right past him. Itachi turns mid-air and throws the tanto at Obito. The tanto speeds to Obito before exploding in a puff of smoke. When the smoke cleared, Shisui stood in front of Obito holding up the bell. "And I think that's game." Obito smiled as he scratched the back of his head. "Well, I guess you win and be ready to join my squad," he said as he looked at his students one more time before leaving the training field. One day later at Fugaku's house. "So you're gonna tell them when Itachi turns 13? Obito asked as he looked at Fugaku. "Yes, that's correct. I would have told Shisui, but I didn't want him going on and telling Itachi." "Yeah, he probably would have," Obito said in thought before coming back to their conversation. "So why did you call me here again?" "Yes, well," Fugaku started after clearing his throat. "The Uchiha have been given a chance to be the police of the village." Obito internally yes before getting back to the conversation. "Really, and what would we be doing?" "To enforce the rules of the village and keep peace. I feel this opportunity would be beneficial in keeping members of the clan happy and the elders of my back," Fugaku said, grabbing the bridge of his nose at the thought of the elders. Well, that is good news and all, but why did you call me here really? Obito asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, I know you're busy with ANBU type things, but Fugaku stopped seemingly looking for the right words. Could you see what the elders of the village and what the Hokage think of the clan? You want me to spy on the Hokage? Obito asked blatantly with a raised eyebrow. Not so much as spy, but just to see their opinion. Fugaku said as he rubbed his temples and sighed. He was already busy enough with normal clan things, and now all this drama and distrust was getting everyone in the clan riled up. I'll tell you the Hokage's since I already know it. Obito said before closing his eyes. He wants to keep peace, but the unrest and distrust is proven to be difficult to overcome. Obito opened his eyes as he got up and walked to the door. After he opened it, he turned to Fugaku. Just so you know, I'll pick the side that wants peace. And if that happens to be against what the Uchiha clan wants, then just know I won't be on your side. He said with a sharp gaze before closing the door behind him. 10 months later. 1. Obito told Itachi and Shisui to meet him at his training field as he had something important to discuss with them. He had just came from a clan meeting in which the coup was confirmed and a date was set after being introduced 5 months ago. Holding the Uchiha off was a lot more difficult for Obito to do, and so Shisui and Itachi were helping, trying to calm the situation down with little to no results. The clan was dead set on this happening, and nothing they tried could change their minds. Shisui and Itachi arrived walking side by side, with Shisui unusually quiet. They had been to the meeting being, as were every Uchiha. Obito wasn't used to failing because of his physical strength. But he couldn't use his fist to solve this problem, and even though he knew how to be manipulative, that wouldn't help at all. He always thought that maybe killing the clan wasn't the necessary right way to go about it, but maybe it was the only way. 5. Obito was leaned up against a tree with his eyes closed and arms crossed. They didn't tell Sasuke about it since he was only a kid and he didn't want to ruin his life. But that was exactly what ruined his life last time, but he had made a promise to Itachi to not tell Sasuke. What do you guys think of it? Shisui asked, being the first one to speak since they got together. Nothing good. I just don't understand why our people are like that. Itachi muttered as he looked down. Should we think about Danzo's suggestion? Shisui asked as he turned to Obito. As much as it hurt Obito, he had to agree. There was just no other way for this to end peacefully. He tried to talk sense into them, but they wouldn't listen. No matter what they said, how they said it, or their reasoning for saying it, they just wouldn't listen to reason. 1. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks I'll make the decision. It's whether we find another solution by then that's foolproof or we do it Danzo's way. Obito said before walking off. The next day, Obito got up early to think more on all that was happening surrounding the Uchiha clan. His train of thought was stopped by a knock at the door. Who could want me this early in the morning? Obito thought before getting up and going to his door. Obito opened the door to see Itachi on the other side. Good morning, Itachi, what brings you here? Obito asked. It's father, he wants you to come to the compound. Itachi answered. Obito shrugged before putting on the rest of his gear and heading out with Itachi. You know what he wants me for? Obito asked Itachi as they jumped from roof to roof. I have an idea, but it isn't concrete. Obito shrugged a little before quickly cracking his neck. Guess I'll know when we get there. Nothing else was said as they speed through the village. Arriving at Itachi's house, Obito knocked a little and waited outside to be let in. He had been directed to a meeting place within the house after taking off his shoes. Once he arrived at the door and opened it, he saw Fugaku on one side of the room, laying elegantly on designated mat. Without any words exchanged between the two, Obito took his spot on the other side of the room and waited for Fugaku to speak. Before I tell you why I called you here, I just wanted to say that this is my last resort. The clan elders want the coup to go through and is giving me one last chance before the plan will go into action. Fugaku opened his eyes to look at Obito on an equal footing. He for a while now thought so highly of Obito, and this was really his only request he would ask of Obito. I proposed something to the Hokage to try and get the trust that we desperately need back. He agreed with the plan only if you decide to go through with it. We will not force you, and if you say no then our fate is sealed. The younger Uchiha raised a questioning eyebrow. Whatever he's thinking couldn't be that bad. Whatever it is, I agree to it. Obito said with determination, as it was, after all, their last chance to try and fix things. Good, now all you have to do is marry a princess from the land of frost. Fugaku said as if that was the easiest thing in the world. 15. Obito almost fell down anime style. This has to be a joke or something. He had given up Rin to Kakashi knowing he didn't deserve that type of relationship. He wasn't even interested in dating and Fugaku wanted him to get married. Fuck no. Obito said, breaking out of the daze that sentence gave him. He even muttered those two words unconsciously. Now way in hell was he gonna live with someone forever and be all lovey-dovey? He had a future to save and he wasn't gonna get distracted by what he viewed as unnecessary bullshit. 1. I am not getting married. Obito said, shaking his head. There is no other way to gain back trust from the elders. If you don't do this then you're going against what you told me a couple of months ago. Fugaku said with a serious expression. You told me that you would be on the side of peace. He pointed to the ground. This is the side of peace. Now, make your choice. There isn't any Yaiwion else you can get to do this. I'm sorry, but I'm just not the marrying type, man. There isn't. Make your choice. Fugaku stated with finality. It was either peace or war. 4. Obito sat there and thought about it long and hard. The pros outweighed the cons so much that the cons would basically have no effect on his train of thought. Even though they're power-hungry and stubborn, they were still innocent and his family, and he'd sworn he'd protect innocent people. Obito also thought about how the Uchiha clan's presence would affect the future. It would be a double-edged sword. Having all the Sharingan in the village would have people like Orochimaru and Danzo lurking, but, on the other hand, having them in the village would strengthen the village as a whole. I accept. But what are the conditions? Obito asked in monotone, hiding his true emotions. That since this'll strengthen the tie with the village and the country you must stay wed. Especially because the war ended not too long ago. Fugaku explained. I see, anything else? Obito asked, taking the information with his eyes closed and a small frown. No. Obito got up and headed out the door without a word, leaving a sighing Fugaku behind. He had to get his thoughts together on this. It was for peace, but getting married was just a no for him. He didn't even want to be involved in emotional feelings and stuff, but he did come back to the past to save people, so save people he will. 2 days later. It had been a couple of hectic days and plans as well as news about the wedding had been around. Obito locked himself in his house, ignoring any knocks on his door and masking his chakra as to not be detected. It stayed like that until Anko broke his door down and barged in with all his other friends. Red, explain. Anko ordered, stepping in front of a sprawled-out Obito. He was still working on the seal and he didn't get any further with it. Softly setting down his paintbrush, he sat up and looked at his friends. Explain what? Don't play dumb, what's this about you getting married? Kakashi asked Obito as he stepped in front of Anko. Exactly that. He answered vaguely, not really caring to elaborate further. Why are you getting married? Is something happening with the Uchiha clan? Kakashi asked with a narrowed eye. With the Uchiha clan? What's happening with them? Kurenai asked. Obito had refrained from telling anyone other than Kakashi about the Uchiha. So they had no idea what was going on, since other than Obito they had no ties to the Uchiha clan. You didn't tell them? Kakashi asked. Tell us what? Rin asked, looking at her two teammates for answers. Out with it, Red. What's he talking about? Anko asked as she narrowed her eyes in question. He had all the attention from his peers, and even though he didn't want to answer, it still felt gratifying to know they cared so much about him. Obito looked down with a heavy sigh. He's talking about the suspicion and tension surrounding the clan. What? Suspicion? Suspicion of what? Kurenai asked. He's talking about how their clan is being suspected for being in on the Kyuubi attack a couple of years ago. Ganma said while having a sunbon in his mouth. Obito looked up at Ganma, quickly startling some of his friends. And how would you know? I was one of the 4TH's bodyguards and so I sometimes meet with the Hokage. I can hear things. He answered calmly. Why is your clan getting blamed? And why haven't you told us? Rin asked after hearing what Ganma was talking about. Her questions made everyone turn and look at him. He knew there was no getting out of this conversation. I don't have concrete evidence of why and I haven't told any one of you because it doesn't concern you. Obito said. Anything that has to do with you is our concern. Rin stated and Obito watched as her statement received small nods from everyone in the room, even Anko. Obito smiled a little before chuckling. Thanks guys. You're welcome. Now talk. Anko demanded as she sat down on his couch. After everyone sat down and got comfortable, he told them the entire story, leaving almost nothing out. The only things he didn't tell them was the coup the clan was planning and his meetings with the clan head. 1. After he told them, they all looked surprised at everything he did to try and keep the peace in his clan. From what they knew, it wasn't really Obito like, keeping up with politics and all. But keeping the peace and helping people were still things he did. I didn't know it was like that. Asuma muttered as he looked down and thought. He definitely wanted to talk to his father about this whole situation. He needed to know why he let the elders get so involved in the matter. So you've tried everything but nothing's working, huh? Ebisu asked, being the first one to talk to Obito. Yeah. Obito answered softly, almost in a whisper. Well, I don't think marriage would solve it, Rin started before being interrupted by Obito. Nothing else I've tried has worked. Obito said. Then how do you know this'll work? Kakashi asked. That's the thing, I don't know if it'll work, but I have no other option. Obito said as he resigned to his fate. He wasn't that upset about his worst things have happened to him. But why is your clan getting targeted? It doesn't make much sense. Ebisu thought out loud. Well, like I said, I have an idea, but nothing is concrete. Obito repeated. What's your idea then? Why do you think your clan is getting blamed? Kakashi asked as he looked at Obito. I think it is because, even though it's stupid, they are still suspicious of another Madara Uchiha. Factor that in with the fact that the Kyuubi was confirmed to be under a genjutsu and that our clan are the best genjutsu users in the village, possible the world. Obito explained. That is stupid. Why would they blame your clan for something an ancestor did? Anko exclaimed, getting angry, which was totally understandable. Obito knew that was just part of the story. He knew it was Danzo's plan to get the Sharingan and to get rid of the clan. And even though Obito could kill him, he, like he said before, didn't know absolutely everything Danzo had done, and that's why he didn't kill him. But sometimes he wanted to bypass the rule, but if he wanted to save as much people as possible, he had to stick to his rules. Why would Dad let it go so far? Asuma asked himself out loud. Well, regardless, as planned, I'll meet her tomorrow when I go to the Frost Country. Obito said before he got up and went to the kitchen and coming back with a snack in his hand. Now could you guys get out so that I can get back to work on my seal? Obito asked as he sat back on the floor. But my youthful friend Obito, you must let us, your friends, help you in your endeavors. Guy said in a nice guy pose. There's nothing to help with. I'll be engaged and that's the end of it. Obito said with a shrug. Well, that means you'll have to party with us so that we can send you off properly. Anko said with a grin. It's cool, you don't have to do anything. Obito said in response. Accept the offer. We'll all be there. Hayate said after coughing, which resulted in Rin and Kurenai slightly frowning. He was always sick and Rin was secretly working on a cure for his illness. Obito sighed with a smile. He was glad to have friends like this. Fine, I'll go. Good, I'll be tonight so be ready. Anko got up and headed to the door. See you later, jackass. Bye, asshole. Obito waved. After talking a little more, his friends began to leave. Wait, get back here. One of you is paying for my door. He exclaimed, running after his friends who all took off. Later that night was one of the best moments in his entire life, and perhaps this marriage wouldn't be as bad as he thought, but he didn't meet the girl yet. The next day, Obito was silent most of the journey to the Frost Country. In reality, he wanted to get this over with without a doubt. He had also drunk so much last night that it made him drunk enough to say he would introduce her to them at the Jounin station. So that'd be something to look forward to. And the almost unbearable cold wasn't helping his mood. You're unusually quiet, Obito. Shikaku, who was their guide, remarked. What's up? Nothing, I just don't feel like talking, that's all. Obito replied. And in all honesty, he truly didn't. He didn't feel like being in this type of situation, and if any other opportunity presented itself, he would take it with open arms. Shikaku gave Obito a sideways glance. He knew what the things surrounding the Uchiha clan, and he knew how hard Obito tried to resolve the conflict. And for that Obito had gained his respect along with his teammates Choza and Inoichi. Let's take a small break, Shikaku announced as he broke out of his thoughts. The small village could be seen in the distance, and while not nervous, he was feeling a bit weird. Obito blinked when a bottle suddenly appeared in front of him. He looked up the arm until he met with the eyes of Shikaku handing him a bottle. Obito took the bottle and read the front of it. Sake? He questioned absent-mindedly. Drink it. It'll help with your mood, Shikaku said as he sat down on the log beside Obito. Obito placed the sake on the ground as he really didn't drink like that and was a rare social drinker. I'm good. I'd rather not be half drunk when I meet my fiancée. After a long while without talking, a question came to the Jounin commander's mind. What compels you to go this far for your clan? He sincerely wanted to know. The three Uchiha, Obito, Shisui, and Itachi, told them of the Uchiha's coup plan, and it at first made Shikaku, who thought of every possibility as possible, suspicious of the three Uchiha. But over time, through listening to them and see them working so close with the Hokage, changed their opinion on the Uchiha. But elders like Danzo and the civilian council were still very much suspicious, especially considering how the clan was planning a coup. Well, maybe because I'm part of the clan and I don't want to see it fall, Obito answered vaguely, not wanting to divulge into what he thought didn't really matter at this point. From what I saw when you were a kid, it didn't look like you cared that much for the clan, Shikaku countered. You're right, Obito vaguely answered again. Then, my earlier question still stands. Clan, Shikaku countered. Obito turned his gaze to the Jounin commander. He wondered why was he so interested in knowing. He heavily sighed, turning back to look at the ground, which seemed much more appealing to look at. My sensei always wanted peace in the village, as do all Hokages, but I guess that since I knew him it means a lot more to me. I'm trying to honor what I guess he would want. He wouldn't want war in the village itself, and I don't want to risk his son's life for my clan. He turned to Shikaku. So this isn't for the clan per se, it's just an add-on. So you'd risk your happiness for the village? Shikaku asked as he turned to Obito. I'd risk my life, Obito said truthfully and with determination brimming in his eyes. When are we gonna move again, Shikaku-san? Fugaku asked, walking up to us. Shikaku got up and stifled a yawn as he stretched before he muttered an ow and proceeded to get everyone ready to continue their journey. A guard greeted them formally before he led them to where he took them to where the village leader was located. Everyone who Obito saw was paler than people were at his village, but he knew it was because of the amount of sunlight the village got. Obito sat on the sidelines as Shikaku, Fugaku, and this village's leader formally greeted one another. Hello to you all. I am Ichiguchi Shinzanaka, leader of the village hidden in the frost. He announced with a polite bow. I've heard things about the both of you, Shikaku-san, Fugaku-san. Likewise Ichiguchi-san, Shikaku started. Not trying to rush you or anything, but when will the girl be able to come with us? Anytime you request. Ichiguchi responded while Shikaku muttered a perfect. We did have a lot going on within the bill walls, and this still didn't mean that the Uchiha were out of the woods yet. What's the girl's name? Fugaku asked. My daughter's name is Yukaina, and she'll be here in a minute. He answered. Well, at least I know her name now. Obito thought in his mind. He wanted to do the least amount of talking possible, as really there wasn't anything to talk about. After the others talked politics about how this would affect their alliance and such, just like he said, his daughter knocked on the door respectfully and waited for a come in. Obito wasn't one to lie, and this time was no exception. She was undeniably beautiful, and he could admit that, but he didn't believe in some love at first sight bullshit like that. She had pure black, straight hair that went to her mid-back. She had onyx color eyes, and just like everyone here was pale in body color. If one didn't know her, you'd say she'd come from the Uchiha clan. She sat down by her father's side, looking down in her lap. While the others continued talking, even when it was about her, she didn't say anything at all, and only talked to someone when they spoke to her. She looked at anyone who talked to her in the eye and answered any question that came her way. Obito did wonder why she did that, and that made him curious of her, something he didn't think would happen. Yukaina, show Obito the garden so that you can get to know each other. He ordered. She followed it without question, getting up and looking directly back at me before I got up myself and followed her without a word. The walk there was silent, you could even say awkward, but it didn't really feel that way, but at the same time it kinda did. When they arrived at the garden, Obito chose that to look at and distract himself from this unwanted situation. What do you want me to call you? A willowy voice asked, breaking Obito out of his thoughts. Obito externally raised an eyebrow while internally he was asking himself, what the hell was she talking about? What do you mean? I mean your name. What do you want me to call you? She repeated, looking him respectfully in the eye. Obito scratched the back of his head. Obito would be fine. That's my name after all. Obito looked at her in question. So, what do I call you? Whatever you wish. She replied in that same willowy tone. Look, she's a bit weird. Obito thought. Well, I just call you by your name. They walked around the garden in even more silence, looking through the garden until they reached the end of it. He had one thing to say to her, so when she walked up a balcony, he took his chance and came up beside her. Yukaina, he called out, making her turn to regard him. I'm sorry I put you in this position. You probably loved someone and I took you away from that person. She turned back to look at the bright full moon that they were staring at. You didn't put me in this position, I've been in it my whole life. She said, her naturally willowy voice. Obito turned to look at her. What do you mean? My father has been looking for a suitor for me since I was 8. I was taught how to do household things such as cooking or cleaning since I was 10, and how to behave respectfully since as early as I remember. She explained. Why was he looking for you a husband that early? Obito found himself asking. He didn't see me as good enough to lead the village one day, and so he found it better to get rid of me. She answered neutrality and without any underlying resentment or anything. Obito was good at sensing emotions no matter if they were repressed or not. Either she was really good at hiding it or she didn't have anything against her father, which he found hard to believe, but he wouldn't divulge into it even though he knew she would answer any question he asked. X.X.X. Walking back to the village was a quiet and peaceful thing. Nothing happened and no one really talked during the whole thing except for when Shikaku asked Obito to play shogi and beating him, but Obito was getting better every time he played. After meeting with the Hokage and getting a quite awkward talk from Fugaku about girls, which was fun. After that he went home with his fiancée, which would be the start of a rather awkward day. Chapter 20. A month and a half had passed and, like Obito predicted, nothing became better. Even though the clan was trusted a little more, it wasn't to where they wanted it to be. And it still pushed them to want the coup to happen. The Uchiha sealed their fate, and in 2 weeks' time, the ANBU Black Ops with Obito, Shisui, and Itachi would all massacre the clan. Obito looked a little sad at what he had to do but knew it was for the greater good. Shisui, Itachi, I know how you guys feel, but I need you to do something when you kill the other Uchiha. What is it? Shisui asked as Obito had gained his and Itachi's attention. I need you two to take their eyes so people like Danzo won't use this to their advantage and steal their eyes, Obito said out loud. Obito didn't trust Danzo and he made sure to pound that in his student's head. Okay. They answered simultaneously. They all looked dead in the eyes as the days before the plan was set. X.X.X. Night of the Uchiha Massacre. ANBU Black Ops moves out with their goal in sight, the Uchiha compound. They arrived there without warning, killing many unsuspecting Uchiha at first. They were told only to spare 2 Uchiha, which were Sasuke Uchiha and Izumi Uchiha. Everyone else was to be eliminated. As ANBU killed Uchiha Obito, Shisui, and Itachi all had shadow clones that took their eyes out and stored them before finding more. They had to get as many as possible. X.X.X. Itachi walked into his house at the center of the compound alone. He knew Sasuke was still at the academy, and right before he left he put a genjutsu on him to make him sleep. When he came into the main room he saw both of his parents side by side with their backs facing him. Hello, Itachi. His parents said in unison. Mother, father? He questioned, looking between them. What were they doing? He held his head down as he stilled his emotions. Mother, father, I'm sorry. He said as he slowly unsheathes his sword. We understand, Itachi, Fugaku responded. Good job, son, Itachi said nothing else as he slowly walked to his mother, gripping his sword tightly on the verge of tears. I love you, Itachi. Please, take care of your brother, she said before he cut her down. Her body fell down lifeless, but he knew he couldn't dwell on it. Sasuke was supposed to be on the way. He moved on to his father. I'm proud of you, Itachi, Fugaku said, making Itachi shed tears. He gripped his sword before bringing it up and stabbing his father through the back. He couldn't stop his tears with his eyelids anymore as he cried silently, wishing that he didn't have to do this. When his eyes opened, he had a newly developed Mangekyo. He took both of his parents' eyes out before peacefully closing their eyes. When Sasuke's chakra appeared, he disappeared from the room and went on to kill the rest of the Uchiha. X.X.X. News about the massacre of Uchiha went everywhere in the world. There were only 5 Uchiha left: Obito, Itachi, Shisui, Sasuke, and Izumi. After most of the village attended the mass funeral that was held in honor of their clan, Obito, Shisui, and Itachi counted all the pairs of eyes that collected. They got all of them and trusted them to Obito, who stored all the eyes in cabinets in his Kamui dimension. X.X.X. It had been 6 months since the Uchiha massacre, and Obito was finally going on a mission in the ANBU again. He and the others had to be evaluated to make sure they were in good mental health, and since all of them were after 6 months, they went back to their normal lives. They kept the compound on the edge of the village as they wanted to make sure Sasuke and Izumi were safe. She also took care of Sasuke when she wasn't busy being a chunin. Finally, a mission, Obito said, stretching before he started to put on his gear. I'll tell you how long it is through one of my summons, he told his now 6-month wife. He had decided to go ahead and marry her before the massacre. Okay, she said in her willowy voice. She talked a lot more now that they were comfortable with each other. He grabbed some toast before jumping out the kitchen window. He was finally getting in a squad, as before it was just him and Kakashi. X.X.X. Late again, Obito. What were you doing? Kakashi asked as he wiggles his one visible eyebrow. Obito elbowed him in the ribs. Shut it. The ANBU captain came in and started saying squad names. And who'd be on it? He had finally come to Obito. Attack Squad 7 is Tenzo, Kakashi Hatake, Itachi Uchiha, Obito Uchiha, and Shisui Uchiha. Go to Mission Room 14 and receive your first squad mission. The leader of this squad is Kakashi Hatake," he said before going to another group of people. 2. "Guess we're all on the same squad," Shisui said as he and Itachi walked up to Kakashi and Obito. "Guess so. Nice to meet you, Itachi, Shisui," Kakashi greeted after pulling out his book. "Same, Mr. Copy Ninja," Shisui said. "Hello to you all," a voice said as they turned around to regard it. "What's up? I guess you're on our squad as well. What's your name?" Shisui asked. "It's Tenzo. Nice to meet you all," Tenzo said back as they got to know each other a little before going to receive their mission. Their mission was to track and eliminate a large platoon of missing nin and bring back the village secrets they stole. X.X.X. The breeze feels good. I haven't been out of the village walls in a while, Obito exclaimed while Shisui agreed with him. Itachi nodded. "How about we just focus on the mission," Kakashi said walking past the two idiots. "Yes, Kakashi-senpai," Tenzo said as he followed Kakashi and the three Uchiha followed after. One day later. "Kakashi, how come you can't track them down?" Obito asked. "Because I don't have their scent. We'll have to track them down the old-fashioned way," Kakashi answered back. "They obviously went this way, but they're changing their direction. At this rate, we'll never catch up," Shisui said as he patted the dirt off his hand. It was gonna rain soon, so their tracks would disappear. "I could use my new summon," Itachi said, gaining our attention. "I might be able to see how useful it is." Anyone else in agreement? Obito asked before he received an all-around yes. "Might as well give it a try," Kakashi said. Itachi activated his Mangekyo and a crow came down and landed on his shoulder. The crow was all black and had the Mangekyo shape in its eyes. The crow set flight, and when it got above the trees split into 8 and went into all directions. "They should tell me if they spot the platoon. We should rest here tonight," Itachi said as he closed his eyes and deactivated his Mangekyo. "Well, let's go find a cave or something," Kakashi said as he walked away. Tenzo stepped forward and clasped his hands together. "No need. Wood style, 4-pillar house jutsu," he muttered as he created a small one-story house he imagined. He loved creating things, and so doing this for his new team was good. "Whoa, you can use wood style?" Shisui asked. "That's really awesome." Tenzo scratched the back of his head. "Yeah." They set up camp and started a small fire before sitting around it. "Hey, Obito," Kakashi whispered to him. "What?" "I never said anything to you about the massacre." "I'm sorry," Kakashi said as he looked at the ground. It's cool, I'm over it anyways. I guess it had to happen," Obito said. Itachi got up and walked towards the middle of the room. "My crows found them. They're near the hidden hot water village." 2. "Well, let's go." Obito jumped up and ran out the door. They all left and got there before they left. "So what's our strategy?" Tenzo asked as he and the rest of the team looked at the apartment the thieves were currently staying in. They rented the whole thing out, which made it a lot easier for the team to get in and kick their ass. "It should be to get on the first floor and move up floor by floor," Itachi answered, slipping on his mask with his Sharingan blazing behind it. "I agree, let's go," Kakashi said before the rest of the team slipped on their masks and headed out. X.X.X. 1 month later. Obito was in his Kamui dimension looking at all the Sharingan he had. He had brought cabinets and things to experiment with him to carefully store all the Sharingan he had. Danzo has one less Sharingan, and even though like in the primary timeline, he didn't go after Shisui because Shisui was a lot stronger and Obito was always around him. Obito teleported out of his Kamui dimension as he headed out of his house and to the Hokage's office. Earlier his wife had told him about it and he had been a perfect hour late, but it was important what he was doing. 1. "Good morning, Hokage-sama," Obito said with a slight bow. Good morning to you, Obito. The Hokage said back. I've called you here to discuss a mission I'm giving to you. What about it? Obito asked after raising an eyebrow. I have a spy who had been looking for a secret organization that has frequently been through the land of wind. Your mission is to meet up with this spy and see if you can capture or interrogate them. Obito thought about this carefully. I hope he isn't talking about the Akatsuki. He looked up as he broke out of his thoughts. Who's the spy? I'll let you meet up with him. He handed Obito a piece of paper. Meet him there. Obito slightly bowed to the Hokage. I'll see what I can do, Hokage-sama. Then he left and started to hop from roof to roof. As he hopped, he opened the piece of paper before facepalming. Of course, it's Jiraiya, why wouldn't it be? He stuffed the paper in his pocket, already knowing where to meet the perv. This was gonna be a long day. X.X.X. Obito stared disapprovingly at the legendary Sannin, who had binoculars peeking at women through a bush, giggling like a girl. Obito shook his head. He should have expected this, it wasn't like it was any good news. Master Jiraiya, Obito called out to the perv as he walked closer to him. Jiraiya seemed to ignore him and giggled even more as he adjusted the binoculars in his hand. Obito walked through the bush, coming to the cliff's ledge. There's a perv peeking at you through the bushes. Obito yelled, pointing at where Master Jiraiya was. The women screamed and ran away as they picked up their stuff. What are you doing, kid? You're messing with my research. Jiraiya yelled as he glared at Obito. Research my ass, you were spying on women at a waterfall. Obito retorted as he glared back. Well, what's it to you, kid? I'm here because the Hokage told me to. We have a mission together about an organization. Obito said as he crossed his arms. Jiraiya waved his arms in a dismissive way. I don't care for that. You ruined my research and I have to find some more ladies. He then disappeared with Obito hot on his trail. X.X.X. Could you get lost, kid? Jiraiya asked, not looking away from the women he was using his research on. You're a pervert. Obito retorted. No, I'm not. He exclaimed as he got into an over-the-top dramatic pose. I'm a super pervert. Obito facepalmed, asking himself why would someone say that out loud. And the fact that he said it so proudly made Obito wanna bang his head on a rock. 2. Obito cleared his throat, trying to stop himself from going crazy. Regardless, we need to do our mission, so let's go. The Sannin raised an eyebrow before turning back into his binoculars. Nah, I'm cool, get lost. He said, waving his hand. The Uchiha was getting really annoyed before he smirked wildly as an idea formed. Perfect. Jiraiya was giggling to himself as he looked through his binoculars. Oh yes, that's it. Just like that. He thought as a small trickle of blood came out of his nose before he wiped, not taking his eyes off the girls. He was enjoying himself, sensing how that annoying guy left but went wide-eyed as the beautiful young women turned into fat old ladies. He almost screamed before he calmed down and sighed, this guy was super annoying. Release. He muttered in a low breath, making a single sign that turned the woman he was spying at back to normal. That's mean, you know. I almost had a heart attack. He said, not turning to Obito and putting his binoculars back on. Can you stop? Obito asked, glaring at the man. He didn't know when to stop. I mean, I could. Jiraiya retorted smugly. Obito growled low before appearing in front of the binoculars. Could you move, you're blocking the view? Jiraiya glared. Could you act your age? This is tarnishing the name of the legendary Sannin, you know. Obito said as he pointed a finger at him. The Sannin just shrugged his shoulders. And not like I care that much anyway. Alright, I'm through with this. Obito thought before snatching away the binoculars and setting them on fire. Hey kid, why'd you go and do that? Now I have to buy a whole new pair. He sulked as he stared at the charred remains on the ground. Like I care. Get your act together so we can go already. Obito yelled. Jiraiya crossed his arms like a child. Not until you buy me a new pair. I'm not buying you anything. Instead of a mission, you're focused on binoculars? Obito questioned, telling himself that this could actually be a Sannin. Yes, I am. My research will be delayed. An author needs inspiration to write. Jiraiya exclaimed. Obito gave him a disgusted sideways glance. If I get you a new pair of binoculars, will you focus on the mission? Sure. Obito felt frazzled at the response. You agreed that easy? Jiraiya shrugged causally. Yeah. I mean, I get what I want and you get what you want, so everybody's happy. Sighing and spinning on his heel, he began to walk back to his house. He had a pair of binoculars that Tenzo let him borrow. He hadn't given it back yet, but Tenzo wasn't too stingy, so it was fine. 1. After walking for a while, Jiraiya spoke up. Where are we headed to, kid? My house, Obito responded. Jiraiya put his finger on his chin as he stroked it. Is that so? He muttered. Let me add something to our deal. When I get the binoculars, let me do some of my research with it. You know, to test it out. Test it out? Obito echoed in a mutter before his gaze stuck to the Sannin. Test my ass, you just wanna peek at girls, you pervert. Jiraiya covered Obito's mouth, startling Obito. He don't say that so loud. People might get the wrong idea. Well, it wouldn't be wrong, would it? Obito retorted after pushing the Sannin's hand away. TCH. They arrived at Obito's home and he opened the door with the keys he kept in his Kamui dimension. When he opened the door and took off his shoes, he went into his house with Jiraiya following. Why have a house this big if you're staying by yourself? Jiraiya asked as he looked around. Why are you in my business? Obito asked back. Jiraiya smirked. Touché. You're home early. Is something the matter? A willowy voice asked from behind them. They turned to find Obito's wife holding a laundry basket. He hadn't been the one to tell her to do anything, she just did it. She always made sure everything was clean and she said it was fine because she was used to it. No, I'm just grabbing something real quick. I still have the mission. Obito replied a little sheepishly because in her other hand she had his underwear. Yes, I see. She then bowed to Jiraiya, who was silently looking at the exchange. A pleasure to meet you. Jiraiya. Jiraiya butted in, knowing she didn't know his name. Ah, then a pleasure to meet you, Jiraiya. Would you like something to drink? She asked as she stood at her usual height. Sure. He answered, causing her to excuse herself to the kitchen. 98, Jiraiya said out of nowhere, still looking at the kitchen door. Ha? Obito turned to him confused. 98 centimeters. He said, still looking at the door, and his expression was serious for some reason. 8. Obito's eyes went wide when he finally caught on to what the Sannin was talking about. Alright, get moving, pervert. He gritted as he pushed the Sannin to the next room with a small blush on his face. 1. After getting the binoculars, they went to the top of the hospital to talk. What do you know about this organization? Obito asked, being the first one to speak since they got to the hospital. Not much, I'm afraid, Jiraiya answered, looking down in thought. All I know is that they wear a black robe with red clouds all over it. Also, they are mercenaries that'll do any job for money. So it is the Akatsuki. This is Jiraiya though, so he must have gotten his sources from somewhere. Obito thought. Hey, brat, Jiraiya called out, causing Obito to slightly growl at the name. What? You're one of Minato's students, aren't you? That Uchiha, right? Jiraiya asked. Yeah, that's me. How come it took you this long to figure it out? He asked. Although it wasn't a secret. Well, I knew from the beginning, Jiraiya stated. What? Then why didn't you say anything? Obito yelled. Because I like messing with people. He answered back in a laugh before getting back serious. How has Naruto been doing? Obito turned to look at the sky before chuckling to himself. He's fine, just a bit of a troublemaker. Did you give him that wallet? Obito asked, turning back to the Sannin. Jiraiya scratched the back of his head. Yeah, I kinda wanted to give him something since I'm never around. A bit of foreshadowing, eh? Obito smirked. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Well, I'm kinda asking, do you plan on training him? I think I'd make Minato-sensei and Kushina-chan happy. Obito said, briefly thinking about Naruto's parents. Well, I'll see if he's worthy enough to be my student. I am, after all, a great sage. Jiraiya said with a grin. Also a great pervert. I'll have to watch Naruto's back. Obito thought as he side-glanced at Jiraiya. Anyway, how's his seal? Jiraiya asked with a serious expression. Obito was really good with seals, and Hiruzen and Jiraiya has trusted the seal to Obito. It's slowly getting weaker, but it's controllable, Obito answered back. The key is still safe, right? Of course. No one even knows where it is or if there even is a key. Jiraiya answered, dismissing Obito's worries. Well, let's go back to the organization. Do you know where they'll be? Obito asked. They were sighted in the Land of Wind, but they never stay at the same place, Jiraiya answered before thinking. I'll find them on my own, and then when I do I'll call you. Okay. Obito nodded. Jiraiya got up and stretched before regarding Obito. When you leave ANBU, contact me. I'd like for you to be my partner in my spy network I just started. What do you say? Jiraiya asked as he outstretched his hand to Obito. I'd say hell yeah. Obito shook his hand. This is my last year anyway. Good, you report to the old man. I gotta use these new binoculars I got. He said before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. Pervy old man, Obito said with a chuckle before heading to the Hokage's office. Chapter 21. Obito was woken up by the sunlight that shined through the room brightly in the morning. He looked to the side to see his wife's sleeping face before he slipped out of bed and went to the bathroom for a quick shower. When he came out, he was in a black sleeveless shirt that had the Uchiha symbol on the back with long, black shinobi pants on. Good morning, Obito. A willowy voice said. He knew it was his wife. Good morning, Yukaina. He said back as he left the room to give her some privacy. He hadn't been mean or resented her, but he didn't necessarily do anything for her. And it wasn't like she did anything to him, but to him their whole situation was just weird. 2. But she did all the housework, so Obito was gonna take her out today. Not on a date, just out of the house. He was in the living room studying Orochimaru's seal that he replicated from Anko. He was gonna try to remove it but didn't tell anyone but the Hokage since he wanted to do it in peace. And Anko wasn't peaceful. What would you like to eat? She asked as she stood in front of Obito. Obito looked up from his work as he thought about it before shrugging. Anything really. And with that, she went into the kitchen. Obito sighed before leaving Orochimaru's seal for another time and focusing on his own. The teleporting part and the sinking part of the seal were the hardest parts of it. If only he could study his sensei's seal, but he didn't want to break into his house. That'd basically be the same as spitting on someone's grave. That's when he remembered Minato giving Kakashi one of his kunai as a present for becoming a jounin. He almost facepalmed. The answer was right in front of him. Breakfast is ready. A willowy voice said, breaking Obito out of his thoughts. He got up and went into the kitchen. He'd have to talk to Kakashi today. As they ate, Obito looked up at Yukaina. Yukaina, do you want to go out of the house today? She silently chewed what was in her mouth before swallowing and setting down her chopsticks. Yes. Would you mind telling me where we're going? Well, to be honest, I don't know myself, but I'm sure I'll find something. Is there any place where you'd like to go? He asked, looking at her facial expression carefully. She was the first person that he couldn't read unless he looked deeply, but even then he couldn't read much. Maybe the market. That way I can cook new meals for you to try. She answered in her usual voice. Well, okay, sure. He answered before scratching his cheek. I thought you would say a clothes store or something. No, I have a lot of clothes already and I already know where that is. She answered before going back to her food. You do? She nodded before swallowing. Anko-san and Rin-san showed me. Obito looked up to the ceiling in thought. Figures those two are always around her when I'm gone. He muttered before returning to his food. Also, Itachi-san told me to give this to you. She said, holding up a bento. What's this for? He questioned as he grabbed and looked at the bento. It's for his little brother. He told me that Sasuke-san wouldn't take it for some reason. She said before going back to washing the dishes. Probably because Itachi won't tell him about who killed the clan. Obito thought. Okay. He responded, leaving the kitchen and putting it in a scroll. X.X.X. Closing and locking the door behind him, Obito walked to where the market was with his wife slightly behind him. Obito thought that was because she didn't know where she was going, but to him, it felt like something else. Your village is a lot more lively than mine. She spoke suddenly, causing Obito to look at her. Really? Yes, she nodded. It's also much more beautiful. Especially the plants and animals I've seen. That statement made Obito think back to her second day here when she had seen a butterfly. Those were in the village all the time, but she didn't seem familiar with it. Like she'd never seen it before. You don't have any animals in your village? Obito asked, turning back to look in front of him. If it does, I've never seen any. But I guess that's because I was never let out of my father's house. She answered in her usual willowy voice. Why didn't he let you out? Obito found himself asking with a small frown. If possible, I'd like to not talk about it. She requested, looking straight at Obito, who looked back. It's your story. He said, turning back. I won't force you to talk about it if you don't want to. Thank you. She softly said. They said nothing more before reaching the market. He watched as she went to look at things while he was fine with leaning against the pole and thought. Hey, Obito-senpai, is that you? Obito heeded a familiar voice ask, which broke him from his thoughts. Oh, Izumi, what's up? Obito said with a smile as the girl approached him. Nothing much. She answered as she came in front of Obito. Well, what are you doing here? He asked. Making me shop. Another familiar voice said that made Obito turn to it. It was Itachi, who, like him, was using his off day to relax. I'm not making you shop. I just persuaded you to shop. Izumi retorted after a small moment of pause. Then why am I here? He asked. I don't know, why are you? She asked back, crossing her arms. He shrugged before spinning on his heels and walking away. Hey, I was kidding, come back. Izumi yelled, causing him to stop and smirk as he turned around. I guess I win as always, Itachi said, keeping his smirk. You won't win forever. Someday I'll win. She stared as a fact. I guess she just knew that someday she was gonna win. HN. Oh, Itachi-san and Izumi-san, nice to see you. A willowy voice said, causing all of us to turn. 3. Oh, hello, Yukina-san, shopping with senpai? Izumi asked as she waved. Yes. She answered with a simple nod before they started talking. Itachi took this time to slip away and talk to Obito. So have you told him yet? Obito asked. I don't plan on telling him until later. Much later. Itachi answered, looking down. He really didn't want to tell Sasuke why their parents died until he was older. Well, I'm not gonna force you. Anyway, have you seen Shisui lately? Obito asked, leaving the subject. I seen him yesterday, but he always disappears with that jutsu of his, Itachi answered. He probably is just training and we're overthinking it, Obito said to Itachi. Probably. Hey, Itachi, let's go, Izumi said, calling Itachi back over while Yukaina headed over here. Well, if you see Shisui, remind him of the tournament we're having today, Obito said as he touched Itachi on the shoulder. I will. He answered before walking over to Izumi. As they separated, it was now only Obito and Yukaina as they walked around the village. They didn't say too much until they saw kids coming out of the academy for lunch. Obito had seen Naruto run out and look for a pink-haired girl who bunked him on the head. He turned to the door as he felt Sasuke's chakra come out, who sat by himself, slightly rubbing his stomach. Isn't that Sasuke-san right there? His wife asked, taking him out of his thoughts. Yeah. He answered before turning to her. I'll go give him his lunch. You wanna come? I'm okay. I'll stay here until you come back. Okay. He said before walking up to the academy and went through the door. He was let in and he went out to where the kids were walking through them. Sasuke wasn't in the best mood and he was hungry. Maybe he should have at least took the food Itachi made instead of refusing it. That's when he heard someone walking up to him, and instead of saying something he looked up to see who it was. He didn't want to talk to any of those fangirls, especially Sakura and Ino, they were the worst. He looked up to find his older cousin walking to him with his hands in his pocket. What do you want? He asked. That was on the line of rude as Obito stood in front of him. Obito said nothing as he took the scroll out of his ninja pouch and unsealed it, causing the bento to appear. He rolled up the scroll with one hand and put it back into his pouch before grabbing Sasuke's hand and putting the bento in it. Eat it. You'll need your strength, Obito said before walking away, still feeling his little cousin's gaze. He meets back up with his wife, and when he turned back, Sasuke was sitting on a tree branch eating the bento Itachi had made. X.X.X. Jounin Station. Kakashi was reading his book peaceful as he stood on the side of the booth where his friends had usually sat. He had taken up the hobby of Obito, which was why it would surprise his friends if he was early. You're early, shitface. A familiar voice greeted him. He removed his eyes from the book he was reading to see Anko. He waved in greeting, going back to his book. Hello, Anko. He answered casually, more than used to her personality. Anko looked around before sitting down at their booth. So, Hataki, anyone else made it yet? Kakashi flipped the page in his book, never taking his eyes off of it. Not yet. That was when Kurenai and Asuma came in talking. Wow, Kakashi, I'm surprised. You're early, Kurenai stated as she noticed Kakashi leaning on the wall. Yo, was all he said, but everyone knew he wasn't really a talker except when he was arguing with Obito. Asuma, Kurenai, and Anko talked while Kakashi silently read his book, only half listening in case they called him. Everyone had arrived but Obito, and it wasn't a surprise considering it hadn't been an hour yet. Obito's wife was here, who was introduced to Kotetsu and Izumo, who hadn't met her before because they had recently become friends with Obito. X.X.X. Hokage's office. Obito had been summoned to the Hokage's office as he was walking with his wife to the Jounin station. He had told her to go on before teleporting to the office. Hokage-sama, you summoned me? Obito asked as he shut the door behind him. Yes. I've called you here so that I can debrief you on your last ANBU mission, the Hokage said as Obito stood in front of him. Obito had decided to learn the Rasengan early to honor Minato, and so he had decided to leave ANBU a couple of months early. What is it about, Hokage-sama? There's a group of ninja holding villagers from the hidden hot water village. Your mission is to find and escort the villagers to safety and eliminate the group entirely, the Hokage said. Obito nodded. When am I leaving? Tomorrow morning, he answered before he went out of his Hokage mode. Don't you and your comrades have a fighting tournament today? Yeah. Well, I'm not going to keep you from it, just make sure you guys don't cause too much damage. The Hokage said before looking down at his paperwork and frowning at it, rubbing his temples. Yes, Hokage-sama, Obito replied as he walked to the door and slightly opened it. And maybe you should take a break from the paperwork and get some sleep, Hokage-sama, you look tired. Maybe I will. The Hokage replied before Obito left, closing the door behind him. X.X.X. Large training field. There were currently Anko, Rin, Kakashi, Asuma, Ganma, who was dragged there, Gai, Obito, who would fight when he got here, Tenzo, Itachi, Shisui, and Izumi on the field who would be fighting, while Sasuke, Yakaina, Ganma, Kurenai, Hei, Ebisu, Kotetsu, and Izuma would be watching and calling matches. We'll just have to fight until Obito gets here, so we'll draw up the first match, Hei-8 said with a cough, getting everyone's attention. After talking with the others on the sideline, they all came to a conclusion on the first match. Okay, first match is Kakashi vs Gai, everyone else moves out of the way. As everyone moved to their positions, Obito arrived in time and sat beside his wife. Okay, now that you're ready, you have 10 minutes to complete the match or the judges decided the winner. That winner moves on to round 2. Any questions? Ganma asked, looking at both his comrades. Not receiving any answer, he started the match. My youthful rival, today is the day I beat you. Gai exclaimed loudly, which looked like it kinda annoyed Kakashi. Gai then sped to Kakashi with an impressive speed and leaped in the air. Leaf Hurricane! He exclaimed, coming down with a roundhouse kick. Kakashi blocks it and while being pushed back by the attack jumps in the air as Gai launches as him. Fire style, Fireball Jutsu! He exclaimed, sending a large fireball at Gai. Gai smirked as he boosted his speed and went past the flames while getting behind Kakashi as the jutsu hit the ground. I'll get you this time! Gai yelled as he prepared another Leaf Hurricane. What? Kakashi said as he turned around only to see Gai's foot already about to hit him. Leaf Hurricane! Gai yelled as his roundhouse kick landed, making Kakashi hit the ground hard. Kakashi was getting up as the dust cleared as Gai was standing opposite of him already in his fighting stance. Damn, I couldn't even see him. He's gotten fast. But I'll have to up the level to tip the score in my favor. Kakashi thought as he reached for the part of his headband covering his left eye. You'd better watch out, Kakashi, before Gai hands you your ass. Obito laughed loudly before getting elbowed in the stomach by Rin. 2. Kakashi, ignoring the comment, lifted his headband to expose his eye that started to already use his chakra supply. I guess you're going serious, Kakashi. Don't hold back. Give me everything you got. Gai exclaimed as he dashed at Kakashi. Kakashi, now being able to see Gai, charged his hand with lightning before slamming it to the ground, causing electricity to go through the ground. Gai, seeing what Kakashi was doing, stopped in his tracks and jumped back. Now how will he react? Kakashi questioned himself internally as he watched Gai's movements with his special eye. Trying to stop my movements, eh, Kakashi? Gai said as he got ready to prepare a jutsu he had been working on. He charged his body up with lightning chakra before dashing at Kakashi at full speed. Kakashi's eyes widened as Gai went through his lightning trap. Leaf Rock Crush! Gai yelled, bringing his elbow into Kakashi's chest that was strong enough to break rock. As Kakashi fell back from the attack, his body dispelled and turned into a wooden log. Substitution! Gai yelled as he tried to find Kakashi. I got you, Gai. Now it's my turn! Kakashi exclaimed as he charged at Gai. Gai, seeing him, reacted with a kick that hit Kakashi, but instead of Kakashi falling to the ground, he dispersed into lightning that electrocuted Gai. Kakashi grabbed Gai's ankle from the ground and pulled him underground when the lightning went away. Earth Style, Headhunter Jutsu! Kakashi came out of the ground and put a kunai to Gai's head, who was still trapped under the ground. I win! Alright, stop, the win goes to Kakashi, Ganma said as he stepped in between the two. The two performed the unison sign before going back. I'll win next time, my eternal rival. And if I don't, I'll do 500 push-ups. Gai exclaimed as he and Kakashi walked. You know what, Gai, you're stronger than I thought. I'm sorry, I underestimated you. Kakashi stated with a hand on Guy's shoulder. Kakashi, my eternal rival. Guy exclaimed as he crushed Kakashi in a hug, as anime tears came out of his eyes. I'm never being nice to you again. Alright, Kakashi goes to the next round. The next match is Rin vs Asuma. Hey 8 said as Asuma went to the middle of the clearing. Wish me luck? Rin asked as she looked back at her two teammates. Good luck. Her teammates said at the same time before she headed to where Asuma was. I hope you don't go easy on me because I'm a girl, Rin said, getting into a stance. Of course not. I wouldn't disrespect you like that. Asuma responded, getting into his own stance. 2. Begin, Gunma said. Asuma rushes Rin as she started to immediately to hand signs. She knew that if Asuma got too close it would be over for her. Water style, raging waves. She exclaimed, sending a blast of water at Asuma. Asuma stopped in his tracks and sidestepped the attack. She knows not to let me get close. She's a medic nin and a mid to long-range ninjutsu user. I'll have to be careful. He reached into his pouch before throwing multiple smoke bombs everywhere. Rin covered her face as the smoke enveloped her. She was a good sensory nin because of her great chakra control, and so she would use that to her advantage. Already knowing Asuma's location, she got ready to try a technique. Asuma stops running around as he suddenly had a hard time seeing. He dismissed it as the smoke, but no matter how hard he swiped at it he still couldn't see. He then all of a sudden felt like he was in quicksand, slowly sinking to the bottom. His eyes widened before he expelled the genjutsu, finally noticing that he was under one hazy genjutsu. His vision came in as Rin was right in front of him with kunai in hand. He was still disoriented from the genjutsu, and so Rin swiped the kunai which Asuma moves but didn't dodge it fully as it cut his cheek. As Asuma landed a few meters away, Rin smirked as she got into her fighting stance. I'll have to admit you caught me off guard, but don't think you've won when it's just a scratch. We'll see about that, Rin said. I need to find a way to get close. She's pretty prepared and she knew I didn't know everything about her. But she doesn't know everything about me either. He thought before running at Rin. It won't work. She exclaimed before using water style, raging waves again. The blast of water came at Asuma as he, already expecting it, dodged to the side while continuing to run at Rin. Rin dismisses her jutsu before reaching into her pouch as Asuma did the same. Asuma grabbed one smoke bomb before throwing it at Rin's feet, causing smoke to rise up. Rin threw multiple sunban at Asuma, who deflected most of them with his chakra blades as some of them hit him on the forearm. Ignoring them, he swung at Rin as she grabbed a kunai and clashed with him. He suddenly adds chakra to the blades, breaking through Rin's kunai. He quickly roundhouse kicks her as she blocks it and flies back from the impact. Asuma smirks as Rin skids to a stop, a few meters away. His left arm, that had the sunban stuck in it, fell to his side all on its own. Asuma has no control over his arm as it felt numb and he couldn't feel it. My arm, what happened? He thought. It's nothing to worry about. I just put some poison on the end of those sunban that would make your arm numb and useless. It'll go away after the fight's over. Rin explained, wanting to win but not wanting Asuma to panic. Wow, she's good, Izumi commented from the sidelines. That's my girl. Now let him have it. Anko yelled. Obito was the most surprised as he hadn't been keeping up with Rin's strength. She did do an eye transplant procedure with little time and tools when she was a genin, and so having even more time to develop made her better than he thought. Wow, she got me and I'm running out of time. I need a plan fast. Asuma thought as he weighed his options. He knew he had other techniques that he could use with one arm, but those were for killing people and this was a friendly spar. He raised his hand in the air. I quit. The winner is Rin, Ganma announced, looking a little surprised. Going back to her teammates, she was praised before she went ahead and removed the poison from Asuma. That was such a youthful fight. Guy yelled. Alright, the next match is Izumi vs Anko, Hey 8 announced with a small cough. Anko, try not to embarrass yourself. Obito taunted as Anko began to walk. She turned to Obito. Go fuck yourself. Go get him, Izumi. You got this. Shisui exclaimed, giving his comrade a thumbs up. Itachi slightly hesitated before doing the same. Big sis is gonna fight, huh? Sasuke asked himself as he looked at his family. Those other two fights were really good and he couldn't wait to see what his cousin could do. Alright, if both of you are ready, begin, Ganma said as he stepped back. The two didn't move as even though they were friends they didn't know each other's fighting style. Only really having base knowledge. They both took out kunai and dashed as each other before coming to a stop as they clashed. Both wielding a kunai in each hand jumped back before engaging in a taijutsu battle. Taijutsu and kenjutsu were Izumi's strong point and even though she had yet to use her sword, it wasn't like she needed it. Izumi ducked under a kunai swipe before using one of her kunai to hold off both of Anko's. After getting in the position she wanted, she turned into a roundhouse kick that Anko was able to block. Sending her back a little as Izumi leaped back and threw her last kunai as she landed on the ground. Anko deflects it with her kunai as she rushed Izumi with two kunai in hand. She engaged in a taijutsu fight with Izumi as she swiped at her with deadly accuracy. Dodging multiple kunai, Izumi skillfully ducks under another strike before grabbing her sword and skillful twisting her body as she unsheathes it, while clashing with Anko. She overpowers Anko and kicks her while following up with a full combo that sent Anko back and disoriented. Shadow Clone Jutsu. She exclaimed, making 4 clones before jumping high in the air. The clones rushed Anko with swords ready on each side. They forced Anko into jumping in the air to get out of their range. Fire style, Fireball Jutsu. Anko exclaimed, sending a fireball to the clones. The clones took it head-on and dispersed as the attack hit the ground, creating a crater. I got you. Izumi yelled as she prepared her next attack from above Anko. Anko gawked as she looked up at Izumi as Izumi prepared her attack. I got this from a mist ninja. Hidden mist slice. She exclaimed as she brought her chakra-covered sword down and sliced Anko. Anko turned into a log that was sliced in half. Of course, substitution, Izumi remarked as she landed softly on the ground. Now, where's she hiding? Izumi internally asked herself as she activated her Sharingan. That's when she noticed something approaching her from behind. She quickly threw a kunai that hit the object dead-on as it stuck it to a tree. Snake? Izumi internally questioned, looking at the snake in surprise. Gotcha! Anko yelled behind her as she was in the air. Now take this. Striking snake technique. She exclaimed, sending a couple of snakes through the sleeve of her jacket at Izumi. Izumi gripped the hilt of her sword tightly as she slashed at the snakes, cutting through them with ease. You're gonna have to try harder than that. Izumi taunted as she smirked, looking around the training field. Anko was behind a tree looking at the tip of multiple sunban that Asuma had deflected during his fight with Rin. She wanted to get some type of advanced over the Uchiha as her Sharingan was activated. Anko did notice how she wasn't really a long-range fighter and fought close combat most of the time. A small snake came from Anko's sleeve and licked the poison from the sunban before going back into the sleeve, waiting to be summoned. This'll be my only chance. It's only about a minute left, I have to finish this. Anko thought as she came out of her hiding spot, examining her opponent. So you finally come out, huh? Izumi questioned, turning to meet Anko's gaze. Sorry for the wait. I won't disappoint you. Anko taunted back, before throwing a volley of kunai. Izumi easily deflected each kunai before swinging her sword at an Anko already in front of her. Anko jumped over the swipe, somersaulting in the air, before attempting to kick Izumi midair. Izumi used her sword to block both kicks before swinging it at Anko as she landed on the ground. Anko ducked under it before using a kunai to deflect another strike, aiming to cut her in half. They grabbed each other hand, struggling to gain the advantage over the other. That's when Anko's snake swiftly came out of her sleeve and aimed a poison-invested bite at Izumi. Izumi looked shocked as the snake appeared out of nowhere. She knew she couldn't pull back as Anko had a tight grip on her, so she used her Sharingan to place the snake in a genjutsu that would paralyze it. How? Anko asked herself, frustrated knowing that she was so close to winning right there. Damn it, I should have expected that. The two leaped away from each other as the 10-minute time limit had run out. Alright, stop, this fight is a tie, Ganma yelled as Izumi and Anko were about to go at it again. Now, pre-form the unison sign. Anko and Izumi did as they had a good laugh, promising that they'd fight again with no time limit. Wow, big sis is pretty strong, Sasuke muttered to himself. Good job Izumi, that was awesome. Shisui exclaimed as he gave Izumi another thumbs up. Yeah, too bad I didn't win. She replied. You did fine, Itachi said, not looking at her. Alright, what's the next match gonna be? Obito questioned, looking at Hey 8. It's Itachi versus Shisui. He announced before the two walked to the middle of the clearing. I'm taking you down. Shisui said, making a thumbs down as he stared at Itachi. You wish. This'll be quick and easy. Itachi responded as he rubbed his padded covered forearm. Brother and Shisui-san are fighting. This is gonna be good. Sasuke said, looking closely at the match. Even though he was mad at his brother, he didn't hate him, so he'd still cheer for him without Itachi's knowledge, of course. Obito, don't you train those two? Kakashi asked, turning to his best friend. Yeah, even though I don't have much to teach them anymore, Obito responded, looking at his students. They're pretty evenly matched, so this'll be a good one. Alright, if you two are ready. Ganma looked at each of them as they both already activated the Sharingan. Begin! Fire style, fireball jutsu. They exclaimed, sending big fireballs as each other. The attacks clashed, cancelling each other out as Shisui, who used the body flicker technique to get behind Itachi. As Shisui kicked him in the back, he yelled, "Watch your back!" While Itachi was sent out of the clearing because of the kick. Itachi got up slowly before he smirked, as his body started to dissipate into crows. Maybe you should watch your own, Itachi told him as he kicked Shisui in the back. Shisui flipped midair before landing on the ground, observing his opponent. It seemed Itachi came prepared for his speed, as always. Shisui charged at Itachi before aiming a kick that was sidestepped. He then aimed a leg sweep that Itachi jumped over before Shisui sent another kick at Itachi midair. Itachi, while in midair, grabbed his foot and used it to flip over Shisui before using a newly introduced kunai to take a swing. Shisui ducked under the first, then sidestepped the second swing before kicking Itachi in the face. Itachi flew from the kick, landing harshly on the ground before rolling out of the way as kunai landed in his previous position. He flipped up as Shisui swung a fist at him that Itachi ducked under before sending a roundhouse kick at the back of Shisui's knee, sending him to the ground on all fours. Itachi aimed a kick at his head as Shisui pushed his head back, falling on his back. He flipped on the ground and at the same time did a leg sweep that Itachi jumped over. That gave time for Shisui to flip up from the ground and leap back to create space, in which he didn't waste the opportunity. As he landed, he went through hand signs before releasing a medium fireball at Itachi. Itachi backed up several times before sidestepping the attack as he threw several kunai and shuriken at Shisui. Shisui dodged them before Itachi, who had wires in his hands and mouth that were connected to the kunai and shuriken, yanked them back. That caused the shuriken to come back from behind Shisui, who turned and deflected them with his newly unsheathed tanto. Fire style, fireball jutsu, Itachi muttered, sending a fireball at Shisui. Shisui's eyes widened in surprise before he built chakra into his legs and jumped high in the air. Shisui looked down to see another large fireball coming at him. He coats his tanto in fire before cutting through the attack with little difficulty. Itachi, who had a clone behind Shisui that came from a hidden shuriken that was concealed in the flames, went through hand signs. Fire style ninja art, fire run. The said as they sent flames at Shisui that extended wide. Shisui's body flickered out of the way, making the two attacks clash. Believing that the one that was behind him was the real one, Shisui suddenly appeared in front of Itachi, slicing him in half. That made crows go everywhere, making Itachi decide to test a move he was developing. Shisui looked around carefully, reading the situation as tons of crows surrounded him. After a small amount of time, the crows attacked from different directions, causing Shisui to use his body flicker to zip to each crow. He sliced each crow over and over again, but it felt never-ending as he could barely see anything besides them. He felt like every time he took one out it multiplied. His eyes widened before he used his Sharingan to break out of the genjutsu as Itachi released a jet of water at him. He put his arms up to block as the water hit him head-on, sending him back into a big rock. When the dust cleared, Shisui was against the wall, beaten and bloodied. "Itachi, please stop," Shisui said, reaching his hand out as he fell to the floor. Itachi's eyes widened before he used his own Sharingan and cancelled the genjutsu he was in. As the world went back to normal, Itachi took out a kunai and deflected the volley of kunai and shuriken that he heard come at him. "You countered my genjutsu with your own. Nice." Itachi lightly praised, looking at his friend. "Thanks, but let's save the praise until after I win," Shisui said as he unsheathes his tanto. Itachi smirked before taking out a kunai and dashing at Shisui. Shisui dashed too, meeting Itachi in the middle as they went past each other while clashing. They both turned sideways, clashing again before Itachi twisted Shisui's wrist and shot a kunai at him. Shisui dodges while he grabs under Itachi's arm and flips him over himself. Itachi, who landed on the ground, shot a wave of small flames that hit Shisui, sending him in the air. Shaking the pain off, Shisui shoots his own fireball at Itachi, causing massive damage to the ground as Itachi evaded it. Shisui uses his body flicker technique to get behind Itachi, slashing at him with his chakra-enveloped tanto. Itachi, who was anticipating the attack, ducked, causing the attack to hit the already heavily damaged ground, causing it to start to break and cave in. Both Uchihas tried to build chakra in their feet to jump out but couldn't as they both fell off the rock they were on. As they fell, they both put chakra in their hands, attempting to grab a surface to stick to. They couldn't get a good grip as Shisui got hit by a boulder that came down on him and he fell into Itachi, who was almost on a boulder himself. The rock and the Uchihas fell into a small hole that the cave-in made as the time ran out. "Itachi, Shisui!" Izumi yelled as she ran over to the hole. "We're fine," a voice called out from the hole. Izumi looked down to see Shisui hanging on to the hilt of his tanto with Itachi hanging onto his leg. After sighing, Izumi yelled, "You idiots, you had me worried." "Sorry." Shisui laughed, scratching the back of his head. "This match is over. It was a tie, so please perform the unison sign," Danma announced as the two crawled out of the hole. Sitting up, the two did the unison sign before getting up and heading towards the rest of their friends. Clearing his throat, Hey-Eight announced, and the final match is Tenzo versus Obito. As the two who were called stepped down, an ANBU member appeared suddenly, saying that Tenzo was needed on a mission. Scratching his head, Tenzo said, "Sorry guys. Looks like I gotta go." He then disappeared with the ANBU. "Well, it seems like Obito wins by default," Danma said before cracking his neck. Obito wasn't mad by that, even though he did want to fight. "Well, I guess it's free food for a month for Team Minato." Obito laughed as he looked at the faces of the people who lost. Plus, he'd make sure he would order a lot of food every time he went out.